Hello, welcome to my channel. This is Babylonian Hebrew, everyone's least favorite Jew. Welcome everyone to my 12:48 p.m. Thursday, February 15th, 2018 live stream. This is not something to be taken very seriously, but without further ado, let me introduce Ritik. This is a gentleman who I found during the whole Elsagate happening. Like, I was kind of late to the party on that because I had sort of logged out of the internet, as it were, for 2 years, basically. Just now I'm I sort of dove back into it recently, like sort of recently as of a few months ago, and Elsagate was something that had sort of been going down in its incipient stages. It was brewing, or what was to become Elsagate, but it's sort of really the amount of videos that were just all over YouTube of this type was absolutely jarring, and I just found it to be one of the most odd and strange and deeply unsettling things on all the internet. So go ahead, please introduce yourself, Ritik.
Hi, I'm Ritik. I don't really have anything that my channel is about. Basically, my online identity, which I keep pretty distinct from my real identity, consists of me having started YouTubing almost 6 years ago on a YouTube channel where I originally just made short animations with this Minecraft animation software. After that, I delved into making Let's Plays, gameplay videos, and PlayStation 2 hacks. So I think this is my current YouTube channel is the 4th iteration of the online Ritik, and I've gone by a new name every time. So most people don't, most of my fans don't carry over, but I'd say I have about 10 dedicated people that enjoy my videos. So I mean, the way I met Babylonian Hebrew, like I said, was him discovering my video on Elsagate. So if you want to go ahead with Elsagate, then
yeah, and you'll see in the chat if anyone wants to join this gentleman's Discord server. He's got or that you'll occasionally find me in there, sort of bullying people. Yeah, Elsagate. Something I find deeply unsettling and disturbing, and I immediately knew that there was some deeper ulterior, or several deeper ulterior
motives.
Not just ulterior motives, but ulterior sort of groups. Perhaps these sort of like these, I feel like there are several perhaps groups that have different things, as it were, almost invested in the sort of Elsagate thing as it was running unchecked. Almost as strange as that sounds, I feel like part of it is maybe some sort of I just don't understand. There's so much to it that needs to be unwoven. So give us what you've got. To me it really makes no sense.
Well, so the way I found about Elsagate was actually just the way everyone else found about Elsagate. So on Reddit, on the subreddit Ask Reddit, someone asked, what's a current, I don't remember the exact question, but it was something along the lines of, what's the current disturbing event going on in the world that many people aren't paying attention to? And I believe the second or third most popular answer was, there are many videos being created of children's characters doing extremely disturbing acts, provocative, inappropriate acts, and worst of all, children are actively watching these to a scary degree. So I immediately went on the subreddit. From the subreddit, I joined in the Discord, and I got incredibly active in the community. In fact, so active to the point where I was eventually kicked out of it because they didn't exactly like my style, I guess I'd say. But we came across, for example, a journalist from Polygon joined the Discord server, and she saw me, how active I was there. I was the very first person she started talking to. She did eventually write a piece on Elsagate, and we were extremely scared that she'd, mischaracterize our movement, because of course we don't really have anything. I mean, I say we, but the controversy itself and the people interested in it, for the most part, at least originally, didn't have anything to do with Pizzagate. So we were pretty scared that she'd mischaracterize us as something we weren't. But yeah, it turns out it went pretty well, and the entire Elsagate scandal, I'd say, more or less got solved now, with YouTube actually stepping up and taking down these channels. So it's really nothing I'm interested in pursuing, but the entire...
Was it solved, though, really? I'm not sure if it was solved. I think that they put sort of a superficial...
Like I said, the actual motivations behind it.
Where else?
The actual motivations behind it really scare me, but the commonly held theory that I've also latched onto is that these videos are basically just being created to draw in as many views as possible. And the moment that they stop getting these views, the production for them, the production for them will go down. I don't know if that's happened, but the problem is, like you said, if there are groups rather that do have a deeper, grip inside, and if there are more sinister motives than we think behind Elsagate, then yeah, it's definitely not solved. But if it is true that these were just to get as many views as possible, the fact that they've stopped getting views, in my mind, solves it. So,
all right, well, it solves a superficial problem, but I think that really, even though in effect this thing, Elsagate, as Elsagate has blown over, I guess, or has been remedied temporarily, even. I think that it really, the most interesting thing about it to me is that it elucidates this much broader, scarier sort of picture of what's going on. I think that there's much more at play than just trying to get as many views as possible. What do you think are, who do you think is invested, as it were, in it, and why were they creating these videos? Because I saw some of these videos. Some of them were, let's say, claymation videos that would have taken a long time to create. Some of these videos were it really, to anyone in my audience, you probably aren't that familiar with this as a reference, but to anyone in my audience listening, it really just sort of I guess reifies to me, common filth was right, about so much. Our world is infested by sort of like degeneracy. I mean, that sounds like such a bad way to put it, but like the point, it's just shocking. I mean, who's behind this? Is it people who are trying to condition children to become more susceptible to abuse or sort of like pedophilia or something like that? Like, I'm genuinely curious. What are your thoughts on that? Like, I know that sounds like a rather dramatic way of putting it.
What's really scary to me is the amount of these videos that are produced for seemingly no reason in Russia, which I thought that would have, because in Russia is deeply homophobic. In fact, so much so that the Russian word for faggot, Peter, literally is like derivative of the word pedo. So I'm pretty sure that by any means I don't know much about Russia or its culture. I've been there for about 9 months at a time in Moscow, but that's basically the end, where my knowledge of Russian culture ends. But if it's anything about, like, if there's just some element of Russian, the Russian situation that's enabled this, where it probably wouldn't be possible in any other country, maybe, a lack of a CPS type system or something, that could explain something. But yeah, I think like a ridiculously high amount of these videos are made in Russia. And another thing is, of course, I'm originally from India, so I spent a lot of time there. And I found something pretty disturbing, is that in Asia, there's often a fascination with the sun, of course. So a lot of TV channels, a lot of TV channels, companies, etc., are named after the sun. So I did some digging upon finding that some of these animation channels that are making, like, the cartoon animations for these videos, and I found out that a lot of them were Asian, so like Indian, Vietnamese, Thai, etc. So, the fact that these live videos are all being made in Russia and the animations, for the most part, are being made in Asia is pretty surprising. And there have been Elsagate style videos made of, because maybe not like animes like Cowboy Bebop or something, which, Spike Spiegel's my profile picture. Maybe not those kind of animes, but like children's animes are the animes for children in Japan are the primary things watched, at least in my state in India. Children anime is the main thing watched by children, dubbed in Hindi or English or Kannada, the regional language. So there's a lot of Elsagate style videos of things like Doraemon or Ninja Hattori, and I don't know if that's because I don't know if this is like taking off of Japan or taking off of the usage of anime for children's TV shows in India. So yeah, I guess this doesn't the majority of these videos videos aren't being made in the West, unless you consider Russia to be the West, which, to be honest, I don't. So.
So I think that's I would consider Russia to be in some ways, quote, the West, and in some ways, quote, not the West. Like there's I mean, there's a whole lot of nuance to it for me. To me, I mean, I don't know. To me, like Russia is geographically not the Russian Federation comprises of what is not largely considered, quote, the West, and there is something interesting. No, there is like a geopolitical divide, but then again, I would also say, you know, Slavs from Russia are really as much to me a European people as Slavs from anywhere else. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, of course. So the majority of Russians, like, if you want to look at the geographical thing, of course, most of Russia is in Asia, but that's just ice.
Yeah.
So most of the this is another thing that bothers me whenever people talk about the overpopulation of the Earth. People ask, why is there so many people in India and China? It's slightly tangential, but people don't realize, like, you know, like, because of how fertile the land is there. Like, everyone went there.
Yeah.
So, like, most of Russia is just ice. So, yeah, the majority of Russia does live in the West. But I don't know. I like, for example, Germanic, Anglo-Saxon culture, even Celtic culture. I consider those to be in a group, and maybe some elements of Russian culture, like, sort of tie into that group. But I don't know. I just don't feel like they're in the same Western influence as the rest of the European countries.
Certainly. Yeah, exactly. I'd say that geopolitically, that they certainly are sort of part of a different block, I guess, as it were. And I think the kind of blocks as it stands right now, it's kind of unfortunate. But this is a different topic. Anyway, I want to continue on ElsaGate just for a tiny bit more, or whatever it is. What do you think the target demographic is, or the purpose of these videos is, quite sort of explicitly and sort of, like, I guess, implicitly or behind the scenes?
We know the target demographic: children. No one else is watching these videos, and it's.
But why? Why?
I don't really I don't really know why essentially it is children, but I get they are obviously the most malleable. They're the ones that are forming this next society. They're the most impressionable out of all of them, and furthermore, they're probably the only people. They're probably the only, you know, they're the only group in society that has, you know, this much time to sit all day on their iPad and just flick through YouTube videos and watch ads for revenue for the creators. And of course, like, if there is a motive against it, of course, children are going to be the ones that are brainwashed primarily. I don't think it's very easy to brainwash an adult. Like, if the population, you know, for example, take North Koreans. If people would spend their entire life, if people would spend their entire life in the West and then they went to North Korea at the age 30 or something, they definitely not fall for the propaganda. Whereas people, you know, of course, most North Koreans don't fall for the propaganda. It's obvious. But, you know, people that are raised from birth to follow the certain way of thinking will at least accept it. And they might go on to challenge it later, but they won't immediately reject it. So with ElsaGate, I don't know how implicitly having, let's say, a video of a I don't really know. You know what's interesting to me is that they don't really use Star Wars characters, because I thought Star Wars was incredibly popular amongst kids. Apparently not amongst, like, 6-year-olds nowadays. I thought it would have been, but they don't really use, like, Star Wars characters, which I find interesting. But, like, something like I guess Elsa, you know what it's named after, of course, or like Princess Peach from Mario or something. I don't know if it's going to be like some kind of maybe exception.
The manner in which they bypass the copyright restrictions is absolutely astonishing to me, because there are much more innocuous videos that are, like, let's say, critiques or even like some lame meme video that will be taken down by virtue of the fact that it's considered copyright infringement, whereas you have these sort of hideous kind of off-brand characters performing, you know, violent or sort of twisted sexual acts. It's really odd, sort of semi-sexual acts, yeah, sort of.
what was I saying? Oh yeah. Maybe it's to create an acceptance of pedophilia amongst children. Like this is normal behavior. Look, it's happening to your very idols. This is normal. So that's probably my that's probably what I think is the most. I mean, on the Reddit, because if you scroll through Elsagate videos, the majority of them are just junk comments. Like they're just random gibberish, etc. And a lot of them are just like, I can't read Thai, but we have some Thai-speaking people in the community. And
I think a lot of them are randomly generated.
Yeah, that's true. The other theory is, I don't know how likely this is. A lot of the channels we investigated, they do seem to be realistic. They seem to be like accurate channels. In fact, something that I did myself, it didn't really catch on because it was around this time that people from Elsagate got pissed off with me, so I stopped pursuing the matter. Is I created a dummy channel and I stole content from other people's videos and I re-uploaded it. And I got those same junk comments. Not
really?
That many.
Oh,
not that
very
many, but I did get some. The one theory is that it's literally like just like, you know, children smashing the keyboard with their little, you know, hands, and just but how easy is it for like a really little kid to what is this? What are you doing? What's survive.io? I'm kind of confused here. Your audio's gone too.
No, I just said it's just one of these .io games. Yeah, it's just something. I'm just going to be messing around with it a bit in the background while I'm.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I kind of lost track of it.
Yeah. You weren't meant to pay attention to it. It doesn't really matter, honestly. Point is,
humorous. Yeah.
What's it called? Yeah, Elsagate, to me, I guess it just seems like some sort of very nefarious, either conditioning or something along those lines aimed at children, I guess, at the end of the day. Walking away from it, it looks like something like that. And it leaves me with far more questions than answered. I wish that far more questions than answered. Answers. I wish, let's say, Google or even one of these major corporations would talk. I wish that there was someone who would spill the beans on it. And there are threads where it's like, oh, you know, here, this is my story working for an Elsagate animation company. This is that. But like I'm not sure which ones are true and not. You know, it's hard to be know really about like these sort of 4chan and Reddit posts.
So I just searched up Elsa and I'm scrolling through, and half of these videos are either like acceptable advertisements of toys that are either for children or just like, you know, like thing. And I found one video, I'm like, oh god, there's still an Elsagate video. I clicked it, and the description is like, hey guys, my sister and I made a parody of the Elsagate video. So I'm like, okay, so this is obviously nothing malicious. So you know, I'm just searching for a video to display to you the gibberish comments I'm talking about, but they don't seem to exist. So it's pretty insane that YouTube managed to clamp down this quickly and rapidly on this sort of videos.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I mean, when did they crack down? Like, recent. It's almost like they were letting it flourish.
Perception of time, but I'd say
it almost seems like they were letting the videos flourish in the first place, as it were, or rather, sort of letting them go unchecked, because YouTube is very, very consistent in clamping down on certain types of videos, those being copyrighted videos and videos that could be considered potentially offensive. For instance, a channel like American Renaissance had their videos put in a suspended state, which is something I've uniquely seen to political videos, whereas not a single Elsagate video has been put in suspended state, despite the fact that it's pretty clear, like sort of like bizarre pedophilic conditioning type stuff. I mean, it's odd. It seems like YouTube was almost allowing these things to flourish, and tacitly there was sort of a tacit allowance of this Elsa material to flourish, whilst YouTube turned a blind eye deliberately.
Yeah, it's almost like they had some kind of register, or they already had some kind of way to classify these videos, because literally the amount of videos that were out there. I know that they were actually mass hiring people. They were like they put out an advertisement to hire out staff to clean up these videos eventually. But you know, it's still a bit unbelievable to me how quickly they managed to do it. Like I'm talking 1 month later, but literally like during the Elsagate cleanup, you know, even if they just had a registry of every Elsagate video, they were already tracking them, and they could press like some kind of delete button to do it. I wouldn't be surprised because all these videos literally disappeared in less than half a week.
Yeah. The thing that astonishes me the most, also, or not astonishes, but one thing that that makes me even more unsettled is the distinction. There isn't really a cutoff between, in a lot of instances, normal quote toy videos and these Elsa videos, or normal sort of randomly generated like quote kids videos. Like there doesn't really seem to be much of a distinction. Like it's just so bizarre to me. I feel like this is I feel like the thing that's worrisome about Elsagate is just looking at it, you feel like there are forces much larger at play here than are actually apparent.
Oh yeah, sure. Give me a second. The one thing that really hooked me in, because this is something I found. If I want to show my screen, can I press like the screen share button? Where is that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I can present your screen.
Okay, sure. I'll go with the application window there, and aha. Whoa.
All right, let's not do that.
So
just get to the right screen
already, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So everyone can see this when they're watching the Hangout, right?
Yes. I mean, I've minimized it so it doesn't do that thing that it just did and crash your
that's
GPU
fine
or whatever.
Okay, I mean, so
yeah.
What really scared me was I was just trying to get an example of an Indian like cartoon series to show someone. So I searched up an Indian cartoon cartoon animation called Motu or Patlu, which translates roughly to fat and fatty and skinny. So they're just like two cartoon characters, and this was you can see what I'm pointing to right now, right? Like this tiger, like eating this guy's face. That was pretty violent. That was, you can already see I'm going to watch it. Jesus Christ, his channel's verified now. That's insane. Who is this guy to get a verification? This was the very first, this was the very second video that popped up when you originally searched up Moto or Patlu. So like, you go through the video, this is one of the characters speaking. I think he might be Pakistani, not Indian, because he has an Arab name, but he's speaking in Hindi/Urdu. I don't really know enough of the language to tell the difference because they're really similar. But yeah, he's definitely a Pakistani guy. So I came up with this slightly bizarre theory. Maybe it's a Pakistani guy trying to attack Indian TV shows, but it occurred to me later that this thing is also watched in India. So it's just like a recreation of the cartoon. Then there's really bizarre clips. I think this is from I don't know which film in specific, Pixar or something. And then there's just this tiger. There's this video of him cutting out a tiger from one part of the scene, and then just photoshopping like blood and guts and gore all over. Like that. It was really so
bizarre.
That is disgusting. And
this makes no sense. I mean, this makes really no just so bizarre.
I can't believe he has that verification. That's insane. 313,000 subscribers, and you know, who is this guy to have this many subscribers when his videos are this trashy? So there's a video of him taking another character from the cartoon and just like photoshopping him as a demon.
Great.
He's speaking in Hindi. You know what's really weird though? The original title for this video was in Hindi. It wasn't in the Hindi script. It was in like Roman characters.
Yeah.
And it basically translated to Motu becomes a booth, which booth, I guess, like the best cultural, like, you know, equivalent would be a ghost. Although booths are like kind of like kindly spirits, which this most certainly isn't.
Yeah, that's weird, dude.
I mean, this is a kids show. Look. There's another person here. ITX Jimmy. This is
this is bizarre. This is really bizarre.
So he's just taking like this Motu, this Indian character's show, and he's just like photoshopping blood and stuff all over.
Jeez, why? Why? It's like all of these videos, like, oh, like there was just one of a fidget spinner embedded in a man's hand.
Oh,
like, come
sorry.
on. Oh,
Like
come
this definitely was. Maybe I was inaccurate. This one says
all of these videos
John
all
Bangaya.
have some persistent theme of either violence or some sort of suggestive / semi-sexual yet taboo interaction.
Yeah, I was
Every single
inaccurate.
one
By
of
the way,
them.
this is the video that's title is in Hindi. So he's just taking another character and like photoshopping eyes from the Terminator on him, which is insane. Like, why would you do that? Like, I gotta say, it's good photoshopping skills. I just wish that he wouldn't use them for things such as this.
It's just weird. It's just very bizarre.
Like, he takes the Terminator eyes and puts them in, and like, what is the point of that?
Yeah, I really fail to understand. I fail to understand the point of any of this. And this is some of the less disturbing stuff, quite frankly. If you want to see some of the most disturbing stuff, like, ooh.
Oh, he has
some of the worst videos to me have the actual children in them.
Ah,
or
right.
The adults who are behaving like children.
Yeah.
Like, good God. That is terrible.
They're all Indian. Like, this is... They're all, like, Mr. Bean is shown in India. Because, you know, Mr. Bean's completely... Yeah, exactly. He's photoshopping off me. Because Mr. Bean's like... Yeah, what is the point?
Bizarre. This is bizarre. I find it amusing, but bizarre.
It's almost hilarious if it wasn't so scary. Like, what could his motivations be for, like, placing blood? Like, now he's going to Photoshop Mr. Bean's face itself. Like, okay, he places blood around its mouth. Blood stains. Yeah, he photoshops on his scary eye, too.
Oh, fuck. What the fuck? I just find this very just humorous, but unnerving and odd.
Yeah, what's this?
Yeah.
Is it? Ah, no, this isn't Elsa
No,
Gate.
this is just some random people.
This is just some guys like...
Well, this is... Yeah. You know, what's interesting is yeah.
It does have some Elsa Gate.
It reminds me of the Joker mask.
That Joker mask thing is utterly horrifying. Give me a second. I'm going to try and find the video. Aw, it got removed. No, it did. It's there.
What are we about to watch? Oh, strap in, everyone. This is probably going to be very disturbing. Hello? All right. I don't know what just happened. I'm not sure if this is just going on for me, but I can't hear anything right now. Try exiting and coming back into the thing. Hello. Say leave and then come back. Exit and then rejoin, please. All right. Hello?
I'm insanely sorry about that. My internet just cut for little to no
Yeah,
reason.
don't worry about it. No problem at all. Yeah, not a problem.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna continue screen sharing.
All right, go for it. Go for it. Go for it.
I wanted to show you that video because that's one of the residual. Oh, you can see my entire. Oh, I guess it doesn't really matter. Whoa, maybe don't do that. Okay.
All right. Okay. What are we going to watch? Play that.
Bad Joker. He's wearing the classical. All my Skype friends' names are displaying there. Bad Joker steals car from Frozen Elsa with Doraemon, who's an Indian, not Indian, Japanese anime character that's commonly watched in India and probably Vietnam or Thailand or wherever this video is made. It's Vietnam. That's the Vietnam flag up there, I think. Yeah, this is Vietnamese. Yeah, it's definitely the Vietnamese communist star thing.
Oh, this is bad. It has an actual kid in it. This is messed up.
Has an actual kid. Then Mr. Vietnamese guy wearing that incredibly eerie Joker face comes out. I don't want to know how bizarre the car stealing process is going to be. Okay. Do you think that the kids that watch this Elsagate stuff actually know who the Joker is? Like,
jeez. In some instances, yes, but in some, no. And how would they even know that that's supposed to be the Joker? It's just
that's immediately recognizable as the Joker to me. But I guess like if you haven't,
same.
If you're only like Joker exposure has been what's his name? Who's the Jared Leto? Yeah, Jared Leto, or like maybe even The Dark Knight or something. I mean, the only like movie instance I can think of that this slightly resembles is the Jack Nicholson Joker, and it looks a lot like the Mark Hamill Joker from the Batman video games too.
Yeah, to me it looks most like the cartoon Joker.
Yeah, it looks most like the cartoon Joker, which is also Mark Hamill, of course.
Yeah.
I love Mark Hamill. Unrelated, but probably one of the few celebrities that isn't a total, chud. I don't know if this is meant to be a skipping rope or a lasso. Okay, I missed the part where Doraemon comes in. That's very bizarre. Do you see what I see?
Oh, that is weird. Yeah, that is odd symbolism to show. I don't know, because to me that looks like a 15-year-old girl.
That doesn't look like a 15-year-old girl to me. She looks younger, I guess.
12, maybe. I don't know. 15 or younger year old. It's just weird. That's the point. It's like it's just some messed up stuff. It's clearly someone who's not.
She looks at least. Yeah, she looks maybe.
Yeah. That's a fucking child.
9 to 10. But point is, she's definitely not 18. And okay, this is Doraemon. It doesn't actually look anything like Doraemon's supposed to look. I guess this is the best approximation. This is actual Doraemon.
Yeah, I'm familiar. It's a fairly well-known anime.
Whoa. Oh, I don't know, because like a lot of the people I've talked to that aren't Indian don't know about it. Only seems to be Japanese and Indian people. Something we have in common. Other than like, 75% of Japan practicing an Indian religion and all of their architecture being based off of Indian. Well, this is I don't. Is this gambling? Okay, I want to see this rescue. Okay. Oh, he sticks a card on the Joker's back. There's a stock yay sound. It sounds like something from iMovie. There's an actual motorbike going past. I wonder what speed through that guy's mind. It's probably a common sight now in this like little village in Vietnam. Oh, just ignore those weirdos. They always dress up in those anime costumes. And
I mean, I heard one theory behind it is that one reason why people do this in certain parts of the world, like earlier we were talking about, let's say for instance Russia and Ukraine, and here Southeast Asia, is because it's a real way. Making YouTube revenue off of these videos was a very real thing until recently. Even for instance, Mohammed and Etaim Bradbury from H3H3 and / the Bradbury brothers, whatever prank channel fame, they they are now even were cashing in on that for a while because they said that that's where the money's at.
Hold on, this is bizarre. You know how Joker was whipping Elsa when she was dragging the car? Why doesn't Elsa get to whip the Joker when the tables are turned over here? And there's like baby noises. It's never in an intelligible language. It's never in like Vietnamese or Russian or even English. It's just like baby.
Yeah, that's bizarre. I mean, this stuff is really just incredibly disgusting. Yeah, all this stuff is just so bad. Yeah,
it's all Doraemon episodes that are linked in the side, not like ones in Vietnamese or.
Yeah, and the thing that really annoys me, is that there was that guy in America who was making videos like this, who was making those sickening videos of like giving his like daughters who are way too old for it like pacifiers and having them like act in these weird ways, and it's just so sick. It literally almost makes me want to throw up. But that type of thing, though, that guy, you know, it's like everyone's like, oh, big victory, his YouTube channel got shut down. It's like, oh, great, his YouTube channel got shut down. I I don't care about his YouTube channel. I want him to be investigated by Child Protective Services. You know, I mean, look at those videos. He's clearly abusing those children, or there's some sort of weirdness going on that is very, very not normal.
And
it's not. You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, no. You know what I heard is that all these videos are based off of I forgot it was some European country. You know, I was like, is it Croatia? Nah, it's apparently Czechoslovakia. Well, not Czechoslovakia. Can't believe I did that. I made that mistake. But yeah, it's these Czech guys. Can I Google Translate this? Yes, I can.
You know Greg Chisholm? Greg Chisholm?
Nah.
Greg Chisholm? Hello?
Nah, I don't.
Yeah, look him up.
Oh, I've seen this guy's face. I know this guy's face.
This guy is disgusting. I seriously hope this guy goes to fucking jail.
You know why? That picture, that's scary. Yeah, I've seen this picture. This is why his...
How can you be exposed to Elsagate and still be like a fucking whatever you are politically? Like, I don't understand. Like, how do you not feel just... I mean, to me, it's just like... I see this crap, like, of this guy, like, hurting his children, like, pulling his children's teeth out and stuff like that, and I'm just like, Jesus, you know, we need to... Like, I don't care about he didn't technically break a law or his individual rights. It's like, no, we need to... People like this should be... people like this should have very bad things done to them. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, I get what you mean. I think really like punishment is great in my opinion. But I don't think that, you know, the system should exist for justice as it should exist primarily for prevention. I mean, really, more measures has to be.
Yes, I agree.
Who let? Why did YouTube? Okay, because again, YouTube's a private company. They have the urge to make as much money as possible. Who the hell let YouTube keep these videos up so long without doing any? I mean, when you register for YouTube, you give them your Gmail. What's it called? YouTube is owned by Google. Google has access to virtually everything they want to know about you, thanks to, you know, online privacy, you know, violations and ridiculously everything. Why is it that the NSA would rather just collect information to black and white? I mean, Google definitely had Google definitely knew who this guy was. They knew his phone number. They could have found him. Why didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, they only cracked down on him after public outcry. I mean, look at those disgusting images. Look at those disgusting images of him using a razor on his daughter's forehead. It's just revolting. Like, what is he doing?
I don't want to look at that anymore.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad.
I knew who that guy was, by the way. I just didn't know that was his name. I recognized him the second you did. It sent butters down my spine.
The more people need to get his name out there. That's the thing. Like, most people don't know his name. Most people just know his face and his dumb YouTube channel or YouTube handle.
Okay.
His name is Greg Chisholm. Greg Chisholm. CHISM. And if you see him, give him a punch in the face and report him to CPS.
Please do. Look, thing. Apparently, according to the description here on the Wikipedia, I searched up like Croatian YouTube brothers, Slovak. Like I didn't know who they were. They're apparently Czech. Okay. Viral Brothers are apparently the people that made this original Elsagate content. I don't know if their channel is shut down. Maybe not. It's right here. It didn't shut down. What am I talking? They eventually made the original Elsagate videos. And, yeah, okay. Yeah, they made the original
Ah,
Elsa Gate video.
Jesus Christ.
This is that's incredibly disgusting. You know, like just looking at all these thumbnails right now. Yeah, look, here's this like Spider-Man extremely itchy, like she just spoke in English with like subtitles. Ah, okay, now there's English subtitles too. Look, Elsagate content 2 years ago, 2015. Yeah. What are your thoughts? Oh, I can't hear you. If you've cut, is my internet working?
Sorry. My microphone just cut out for a second.
Oh, right. Okay. Were you saying anything?
Yeah. No, I wasn't. I was just being disgusted by what I'm witnessing. All right. So, I don't know. I guess in terms
Wait, hold on a second. I think this is a video that a friend of mine showed me. Ah, no, it isn't. It isn't. Whoa. Okay. Some pretty disgusting imagery. I mean, if YouTube does anything to your channel, that's ridiculous. Because why is this up? You know. I think they will though. Oh, by the way, one thing. If you're okay with this, I highly recommend when this goes up on YouTube, you age restrict it to 18 and over. Can you do that?
Yeah, sure.
Because otherwise they're going to go after you. And trust me, the last thing you want is for YouTube to be... They continuously... The Elsagate video I have with 50,000 views. Thankfully, I know... thankfully on Twitter, I managed to find someone who worked on... who works for YouTube. And I talked to him and... he managed to get my videos back up. They got pulled down 3 times, okay? 3 times. First time I contacted him. They got pulled down again. I had to contact again. Third time, he just got pulled down. So now I've made the video 18 plus. Nothing has happened since, but it's good.
Crazy. I've never had a video shut down. I think all my videos are set to 18 plus by default on my channel.
Ah, right. This, yeah. No, because I could view them not logged in.
Oh, then perhaps not. Well, I don't know. I guess
fine. Set this one to 18 plus at least.
Sure. Why not? Yeah. And if it does get pulled down, I have ways of re-uploading it. I think that's never happened.
If it does get pulled down, we unleash the fury on YouTube.
Precisely. Yeah. I mean, I'll take it to YouTube. Like, I don't care. This is just a hobby, but anyway. Let's see. So
I'm trying to understand what this video is. Apparently, I think from the gist of it, because I'm not going to sit through and watch the entire thing, both for my mental health and time. But some guy gets like put in a box and he's like, "Okay, I'll take you to your girlfriend," and then he takes him out on the street. There's no way that that can be real. Spider-Man kissing prank 2 years ago. So look, these are the originators of the Elsagate content.
Can you really say that people are the originators, though?
I think so. I think the general consensus on the subreddit, for at least, is that these are the...
I can't see what you're presenting on your screen. I'm not sure.
You can't?
I can't. I'm not sure if that's just me, but...
Okay, let me try that again.
It's like, just try turning screen share off and on again.
Oh, yes. Okay, now you should be able to.
Yeah.
Can you see it now?
No, I see an endless vortex. Go to the actual screen.
I am on the actual screen.
No, you're not. You're in an endless vortex.
Okay, the reason why is because I'm in incognito mode on a separate window.
Okay.
I'll go onto... So yeah, this is 2 years ago. So another 2 names that people should probably be aware of. Viral Brothers. I can hear police sirens on your end.
That's those are ambulance sirens, and it's because ambulance I live in New York. Go ahead.
Where's the Viral Brothers Wikipedia page? Here it is. So yeah, the Viral Brothers, Eric Meldick and Chenik Stiblo. They're not actual brothers, biological brothers. They just call themselves that. I'm gonna stop screen sharing for now because I think I've
for it.
shown everything I need to about Elsagate
Yeah.
in terms of video
Yeah.
material. This is the
I think that- I
this is the
think-
remainder. If you talked to me like 1 month ago about this, I would have had like an entire plethora, an array. I could have sat here for 10 hours, talked to you about every single YouTube channel because I did insane amounts of research on each of them. But
yeah, I mean, I've seen your videos. They seem quite in depth. It seems like you've done your homework.
yeah, I did.
Anyway, let's see. Oh, what else can we get into? Okay, so what do? You talk about like Ben Shapiro. Like Ben Shapiro, okay, so like so that's where we agree. And now we're getting into the part where we disagree. I say that politically, we're probably fairly diametrically opposed. I mean, I don't even know where you're coming from, but I mean, I don't know. What do you do? Well, okay, so what do you criticize? Like what are you talking about? You were talking about like, oh, something about like Ben Shapiro, something about like, there was another video about like race. Like I don't like I didn't really watch those fully, but like if you just give me like a quick rundown, give me something to argue about.
I have, to my knowledge, 2 videos right up about Ben Shapiro. Let me just double check because I forget this kind of stuff, which I probably shouldn't, but I end up anyways.
Well, it doesn't matter.
Okay,
like
so
I'm not going to defend Ben Shapiro's honor. I mean, I don't particularly like Ben Shapiro.
No. I want to know if you want to know where I'm coming from. And I've attacked Ben Shapiro, and apparently 2 videos, and a response to the time that Paul actually brigaded my original video about Ben Shapiro. So the very first video,
coming to defend Ben Shapiro. Now that's interesting. Sorry, go ahead.
It's interesting because imagine being Ben Shapiro. You are actually like, you were on that level where you try to appeal to a fan base that hates you because you know how anti-Semitic the alt-right is, and on top of this guy is extremely Zionist.
Although, okay, no, but this is so nuanced. Okay, go ahead. No, go ahead. Say, make your point. Go ahead.
Okay. Here's the thing. Okay, like the one thing is I guess a lot of people like to confuse my criticism. For example, here's the thing. Okay, I'm not like anti-American or anti-Russian or anti, any such country like that, but I have problems with their government, and I have the same issue.
Hello. Can you hear me? Oh, geez. Right when we were getting to the good part. Come on. All right, I think his internet just cut out. I think he was going to say that he has the same issue with the government of Israel, but we'll wait on him. Anyway, I just wanted to begin addressing things there. Okay, first of all, I think you all know what I'm going to say. One, Ben Shapiro is not, quote, alt-right, nor is he appealing to the alt-right. He's a constitutionalist. I don't even know what he is. Is he like somewhere between like a neocon and a paleocon? And I don't even... I think that he in foreign policy in a lot of ways resembles a neocon, and then sort of like, but also has this kind of Pragerite kind of like very light paleocon light thing kind of going on in terms of like a lot of his sort of moral views about the world. But he also very much has this sort of like capitalist kind of Protestant ethic that's a very kind of uniquely American thing, and I would say in a lot of ways that's also going on. You're back. Oh, and he's gone. Hello? All right, I guess it's just me now. Well, I guess if he doesn't come back in a few minutes, I will be concluding the stream. But yeah, I guess that was fairly productive. We talked about Elsagate. Oh, brilliant, he's back.
Hello.
Hey,
I'm gonna have to keep apologizing.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Just go back to what you're saying. Okay, I don't think Ben Shapiro.
My internet cut off.
You were saying something like something about Zionism. Like Ben Shapiro is very Zionist.
Yeah,
and
he is,
you had this. I assume you were going to say the same critiques that you have of the American or Russian governments.
Yeah. What I was saying is that a lot of people confuse like being against the current government and state of Israel with being against the concept of a homeland for the Jews.
Oh yeah,
It's really frustrating because I'm. Can I stop screen sharing? How like?
are you?
Oh
are
my
you
god! I'm getting
screen
called. Give me
sharing?
a second.
No, it's fine. Don't worry. Take your time. He's not screen sharing. I don't know. I think it's. I'll hide him. Hide him. Or I'll I don't know. Mute him. I don't know. Mm.
I'm back. Your mic's muted, by the way. So if you're there, then.
Sorry, you were talking about people conflating criticisms of the current Israeli government with the critique of the concept of a Hebrew polity or Hebrew polity in the Levant, etc.
Whenever it happens, because the current Israel government, being leaning to the left, of course, I'm in every case opposed to. I'm completely against the, the occupation of Palestinian land. But here's the thing: is you really can't undo it now. It will be like Native Americans taking the U.S. back. Of course, the Native Americans have been incredibly wronged, and their descendants have every right to be angry at the people who did it. But at the same time, like, it's just the way it is. You can't go back now.
I mean, I'm not sure if I would consider those two things precisely analogous. I'd say that
no, they're not. They're not.
Yeah,
they're not.
yeah. But I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. I'm not gonna even. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So let's see what I was saying. Yeah. I mean, obviously, like one of the main reasons I made my channel is to basically defend the concept of a Hebrew polity and advocate for certain ways in which about something like that should be constructed and amended, I guess, as it presently stands. I'm no big fan of the current Israeli government. I feel like the sort of, I guess, what I would describe as like maybe like a center-right, American neocon aligned Israeli government. Like
Israel is, if you ask me right now, a puppet of the U.S. No doubt about it.
I think it's much more nuanced than that. I think that, yes, Israel is a puppet of the U.S., and the U.S., I would also posit, is to a degree the puppet of I don't know. I would say sort of like the elite interest. The U.S. is beholden to elite interests, which include elite Jewish or Hebrew interests. Predominantly, I would say yes in the diaspora rather than explicitly Israeli. But I would say that there's a unique relationship between America and Israel, which I don't actually particularly like. My choice is actually for Jews to do what I'm doing and repatriate to Israel. I think that Jews should return to Israel. I think that, in fact, Jews living in the West is not a good idea. I think that, as a matter of fact, generally, when you have two groups that are trying to share a polity with one another, even if the differences are relatively minor, it will sort of manifest itself as this zero-sum game whereby groups will, even if not explicitly trying to harm the other group, they will attempt to do things that make their lives easier or advocate for an increase of their rights, which, let's say, if they're a non-indigenous minority group, the indigenous majority group, it might be to the detriment of said group, let's say. I mean, I don't think it's.
So, like,
this is a whole different.
Would you be? What would your opinions be on sort of like a reverse deportation, as in Israel forcefully ships over Jews from like Europe?
Ships over Jews? What do you mean ships over where?
Like Israel essentially creates a deal with Europe to the point where Jews basically just have to go to Israel.
I would absolutely
And
support
Israel
that.
is,
I
like,
think that would be
completely
good.
supportive.
I wouldn't
You think
want
that
them
would
to
be
be
good?
able to vote, though. I don't want to have all those.
So
stupid
you would be okay with, like,
lefty Jews coming over to Israel and voting?
Yeah, I guess like an Israel-backed deportation of
Yes, absolutely.
European and American, North American, South American.
Oh yeah.
What about
Absolutely.
like?
I mean, I would obviously, ideally, have it be done in a way that that retains as much sort of assets as possible. For the Jews, monetarily speaking. I don't want to like destroy anyone's lives. I don't want to like break up families or anything like that. Obviously, like I would do it in the most. I would ideally have it be in the most humane way possible. But I feel like, morally speaking, I feel like I would be doing the right thing to do that for those Jews, for them. I think that they would be, even if they wouldn't necessarily be happier, I think their children would be happier, because a life of wealthy material possessions, I think, is unmatched by a life of living living in one's indigenous lands, being connected to one's history and one's ancestry. I think is more important. And I think that also living in a polity wherein you can control your own destiny. I think those things are, I would rather have all of those things than have a materially cushy life in the West.
All right, that makes sense, I guess. What about Jews that, for example, do you have, because this is a very explicit way to ask this question, but do you think of Jews as like a whole, or in your mind is there a difference between like Ashkenazis, Baghdadi Jews, etc.? Like,
oh yeah, totally. I mean, it's obvious. I mean, it's.
But do you think they all belong
obvious.
in Israel?
Well, I think they all have common ancestry, and you can tell, like, when you look at genetic studies of Jews, you'll find that all the two aforementioned groups, as well as nearly every other Jewish group, has at least to some degree shared ancestry from this common genetic pool, which can actually be traced and related to Lebanese people, Druze, some people from other regions of the Levant, like for instance Samaritans, as well as human remains from the Bronze Age in the Levant. Mm-hmm. So you have this common genetic lineage that links nearly all Jews today, indicating a common origin, specifically a common origin in West Asia.
You know what I find very interesting, and a lot of people know about this. Judaism was actually the very first foreign religion to enter India. That wasn't Buddhism or Hinduism.
Yeah.
A lot of people mistakenly think it's Christianity, and it's true, because like there have been communities in India that have been Christian for like far longer than Europeans have.
Isn't that the origin of the Koshin Jews, or the Jews in Koshin?
Yeah, of course, yeah. Or you ever heard of I don't know how you pronounce it, Ben Israel?
Yeah, Bene Israel. Yeah,
Bene Israel. Yeah. So I was on the Wikipedia page. I'm pretty surprised to see that actually the ethnic group I'm from in India, of which it is called Konkani, there's 7 million people that speak our language. But the way that, just out of interest, I can't see my profile picture right now. I just see a black screen. Is there a reason for that?
I think I like hid your profile because you were like, how do I stop screen sharing? Can you see it now? Is it better now? No. Is it better now? Shit.
All you did was mute me. I don't see my profile picture still.
Well, I don't know. I'm sorry. The animate. Yeah, I don't see it either.
That's bizarre.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Am I presenting or something?
No, you're not. You're not.
Am I screen sharing? Because nope. I see like a screen looking kind of thing.
I don't know, dude. I don't know. I don't know what people are seeing. If anyone's in the chat right now, please tell me what you're seeing.
So we haven't had any comments in the chat.
Yeah, we have.
Really?
Yeah. Here, I'll send you the chat link right now. Look in the little thing that I'm sending you here.
All right.
Anyway, let's see. Someone says I see anime and a lion. So it's only you who can't see your profile picture. Yeah, so it's Spike Spiegel.
Okay. So you.
Right.
Okay, that's good. You see an anime. That's Spike Spiegel. No screen share. Okay, this is good. This is very good.
Ben Shapiro is not any. Ben Shapiro has nothing to do with quote the alt right.
No, of
I
course.
feel, yeah. Well, I feel like there's such a distance between. Like, I don't know. What were you saying earlier about Ben Shapiro? I mean, that was like Ben Shapiro is like firmly in. Someone in the chat said it beautifully. They said the kosher right. I should use that. Like, there's this kosher right.
I just saw that now.
And the most edgy people in the kosher right, I would say, are like, you know, sort of Milo Yiannopoulos or Laura Loomer or like Mike Tokes or whoever. I just saw Mike Tokes for the first time recently. I hadn't heard about him until recently. But sort of people like that. And then you have the like the cool conservatives like Crowder and Shapiro. And no, between those types of people, you sort of have actually like the Alex Joneses. And then, I mean, I don't, and then the Paul Joseph Watson. I don't really know, honestly. But the point is, yeah, Ben Shapiro is, he has his audience, and his audience is like people who don't have, basically, I mean, what do you think? What was the point you were making earlier about Ben Shapiro?
Okay, so I have my very first video on Ben Shapiro was basically him talking about, and I know you'd probably be for this too, but it was just basically a criticism on him always acting like he isn't racist, but he is. It's not really even just a criticism of him being racist, because like if he's racist, that's something that.
Well, what does racist mean?
But
racist is like a bogus term that leftists use to fucking tar people, but it's a meaningless term. Like the term racist is something that people will say. Like, okay, so here's an example. You have three people. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but like to me, I have a very problem.
No, it's
with
fine. You can if you have any things to say, you could just definitely interject. All right,
yeah, I'm just curious about, because I like to say this to people who use the term racism, which is a term that I try to refrain from using unless I'm talking to leftists and I'm sort of throwing their own words back in their face, like I do in YouTube comment sections. But the term racist, okay, so you have one person. She has a belief that she believes in multiculturalism and that everyone should blend together or whatever, like globalism. Everyone's a global consumer, whatever, everyone's equal from a moral philosophical standpoint. But she thinks that there are cognitive differences as well as other differences that manifest themselves, as well as obvious physical trait differences, and that leads to certain sort of averages and differences of let's say behavior or cognition, which leads to behavior, or even things like smaller things. Like so someone who basically talks about human biodiversity and accepts that human biodiversity applies from the neck up. You have this one person. So you have her, and that's one person. Then you have another person with the stance that they want that they are in favor. You have another person. This person is in favor of identity. So you have an identity person. This could be a European or a Western sort of like identity person. Could be an identity person from the subcontinent. They could be from East Asia. They could be from the Middle East. They could be from anywhere. Here we have an identity person. So like let's take me for example. You have like a Hebrew nationalist or Hebrew. Let's describe it. I guess I would describe myself as sort of a traditionalistic repatriationist, if you want to get really autistic about it. But the point is, so you have someone like me, and then you have someone like a guy who basically wants his group to rule, whatever the group that is, his group to rule over everyone else in the world, and thinks everyone is inferior and should be wiped off the face of the earth. All three of those people could get described as quote racist, but those people's viewpoints have very little to do with one another. I mean, they have some things to do with one another, but they aren't necessarily like, it's not like a logical conclusion to leap from one of those points to another or vice versa necessarily. One can hold any of those things kind of independently without necessarily endorsing the other two. You see, so I have a problem with the term racist because it eliminates nuance. It's just a thing to say, oh, this person, has negative moral thoughts vis-a-vis quote race. Which could be anything from ethnicity to sort of religion, tribal affiliation, discrimination, anything. So the term racist, I think, is just a bad term. I mean, what do you think?
So yeah, of course, I'm using racist as a broad term because I can say Ben Shapiro unfairly discriminates on people on the basis of a term that is applied to them. It's a bit bizarre to say that, but essentially, my Ben Shapiro video was essentially just him often saying, "I don't really." He doesn't. He consistently considers himself to not be a racist, which of course, when he says he's not a racist, like you said, you could apply that same criticism because it's such a vague term. But I'd say that racism is a spectrum. And I definitely say that being hostile, for example, making a generalization about a race, saying something like, Arabs like to bomb crap and live in open sewage, which is ridiculous because, as we know...
Open sewage.
Yeah.
Where did that one come from?
It came from Israel destroying Palestinian sewage systems.
Oh, they can't rebuild their sewage systems? Come on. They can use that Western aid to rebuild... Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
This is equivalent to saying that Americans enjoy school shootings, or that Haitians love earthquakes. It's ridiculous.
Well, I actually don't really have much of a gripe with Arabs per se. I mean, actually, this is where I wouldn't make a big, mean, unkind statement about Arabs, other than the fact that I think a lot of the time they're racist, and that is what makes me unable to, converse with them civilly. Is a lot of the time they are the ones who have the racist and supremacist views. But I won't. I think that language like that is unproductive, even if you wish to be an enemy of the Arabs. Speaking of them in those terms is unproductive. I respect the Arabs. I respect them as the conquerors of my people, and I understand that they're incredibly powerful and that they have this incredible sort of will to power and will to conquest, and I acknowledge that, and I see that, and I'm like, I am going to protect my indigenous land from your colonial clutches. So like, I respect the Arabs, but to the degree that they respect me, I think that comments like that are unproductive, because I think that the Arabs are more similar to Jews than different. The Arabs and Jews are more similar.
Yeah, you said this on one of my videos, on that exact Ben Shapiro video. You said that Jews and Arabs cluster really similarly whenever races are charted up, so your conflict can be considered to be more cultural than racial. And I thought that was interesting, because I wouldn't consider races just, by definition to being at odds with each other. I'd consider any sort of divisions or conflicts to be purely cultural. I don't necessarily think, and even if
I think races can be at odds with each other, dude. Like
members of the races, but I don't think like the concept itself.
No. I think inherently, like, just because, like, okay, like literally, like, okay. So I mean, this is gonna sound okay. All right, so
do you think?
You've got a bunch of You take a desert island and you take a bunch of completely brainwashed infants, West African infants and East Asian infants, completely brainwashed. There, no exposure to civilization. Just do a full Lord of the Flies, and somehow, hypothetically, theoretically, they survive. Right. These groups are going to process the world differently and interact differently with their surroundings, and cognitively go through everything about their life differently, simply because their physical brains are structured differently, neurologically speaking. Like, all the physical variation on the body, there's just very similar internal mental variation. And yes, while quote race is a clumsy term, it's actually
like you said, there are correlations. There are large groups that you could generalize. Well, not generalize, but there are groups that you could group together. But the point where I have slightly grievances with this is, for example, take the subcontinent where I'm from, right? If you look at my ethnic group, which is Konkani, like I mentioned earlier, we are extremely highly educated. We have the highest degree of bilinguality in the entire country, which is, of course, why most of us speak fluent English. In fact, I'm speaking English right now, of course, but that's more to do with the fact I live in a country where English is the primary language. But there's plenty there. But I've seen, especially in a lot of alt-right servers, they often like to generalize Indians as a whole as having a low IQ, and I just don't think that's fair. because of how many ethnic groups that exist there.
Dude, okay. This is actually just my problem. This is actually just really the people who I blame here are the establishment, the academic establishment, the academic status quo, the cathedral, as some might put it, for keeping IQ research under wraps, because there has not been a lot of good, up-to-date, or nuanced or recent work done on the entire swathe of land running from the subcontinent to I would say even within Africa, but I would say subcontinent to West Asia at the very least. I think that the work done has not been very nuanced. For instance, I look at Jewish IQ. There's a lot of research done on Ashkenazi IQ, even intra-Ashkenazi IQ tests I've seen done. But the thing that irritates me is there's one quote Sephardic IQ. I see something like that, and it's stuff like that. It's just I really wish that there was more research done on stuff like IQ, because I know personally that looking at the IQ numbers that I see for like quote Sephardic IQ or quote Indian IQ doesn't really correlate to my personal experiences with those groups. Of course, I live in in a big city in the West, in a nice area of that city, so it selects, but still, you see what I mean, right? Like I think that just more research should be done, really, because I feel like the current information that we have is perhaps lacking in nuance. These were for instance, like Rushton's IQ like studies are very general. It's general stuff. Like a lot of this IQ research is very old. Like we need more recent, more nuanced stuff. I'm for promoting more research in these areas. I think that it's bad when people generalize.
Someone's talking in chat, isn't Indian IQ higher than European? Here's the thing, okay, and this is what I think is slightly interesting, is I was reading this article earlier. It's like, are Indian Americans, not Native Americans? I never use the phrase Indian American to mean Native American, because as an Indian, it's super confusing to me. It's nothing to do with political correctness. It's to do with being specific. So I was reading this, I was reading this, what's it called, this article. It's like, are Indian Americans, people from India living in America, their own ethnic group? Because they are some of the most intelligent, some of the highest well-performing. But then when you get the average IQ of people living in the Indian subcontinent, the people there are mentally retarded or something. Like the IQ level is incredibly low. As low as Africa. I don't believe. I believe that there's a lot of factors, which I have to make a video about, that go into play here. But I mean, by definition, the entire studying of race IQ is done to structure society in a specific way. Is it because of poor nutrition? I think it's because of poor nutrition, and I also think it's because of things like language barriers and idea barriers. So people that what Jordan Peterson was saying, I have a video. He said that there's no way to remedy IQ. You can't study for an IQ test, and that's completely false, because you can absolutely study for an IQ test. This is why Mensa only allows you to take the IQ test a limited amount of times, because you can practice really hard on an IQ test. The most accurate result is the result you get first off. But things like video games, etc., highly prepare you to the kind of stimuli that is tested in your IQ test. And furthermore, I've seen IQ tests. They ask about questions like hockey. You can't expect an Indian to understand anything about hockey. It would be like asking, it would be like asking someone in the US about kabaddi, which is some kind of wrestling sport that people in the West have never even heard of. It's ridiculous. So yeah, exactly.
You can give culturally null tests like Raven's progressive matrices.
It is possible, but a lot of IQ tests, especially the ones seen from Mensa, because I've had a look at those. They seem very culturally biased.
No, I agree.
American elements, etc.
I can agree with you on that. Sure.
But I want to go back on what I was talking about a bit earlier, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Are Indian Americans their own ethnic group? Because this got me thinking really hard. The Konkani Indians, of which I'm a group, are there's 3 or 4 subdivisions. These subdivisions are mainly separated by Mutt. Mutt is I guess it's kind of like a tribe. So of which I'm the GSB tribe there. I'm gonna try and think of famous people in my little tribe community. The only one who's actually coming to mind right now is the name of a British criminal. I don't know if you've heard of him, Vijay Mallya. Ever heard of Vijay Mallya?
Not sure. Go on.
You might want to Google him up. He's a businessman and politician. He's probably the most well-known person in my group, which is of I'd say about 200,000 people out of the entire 2 million Konkani population. And something you might also find interesting is that the Ashkenazi Jews that came to India actually settled and spoke the Konkani language, but they wrote it in the Hebrew script. Because the language is written in like differing scripts according to religion. So the Arabs write it in, not the Arabs, sorry, the Muslims write it in Arabic because they study the Quran so much. The Jews, because there aren't really any Jewish Konkanis anymore, they used to write it in Hebrew. The Christians write it in Latin, in Roman characters, and the Hindus, of course, write it in Devanagari, which is the script that the Bhagavad Gita was written in, or at least a derivative of, or they write it in, because there's a significant Konkani population in Karnataka where they speak a language called, what's the language called? Oh yeah, Kannada, of course. They write it in the Kannada script. So yes, Ajit Pai is actually, Ajit Pai is also a GSP. That's true. He is actually. I often get confused. I think he's part of another subdivision, but no, he is in mine. It's pretty surprising because there's only 100,000 of us, yet so many live in the West. Like, if I've come across like Konkani people in real life before, the majority live in India. There's probably 20,000 maximum in the Middle East, and whenever I come across one, I'm like, wow, like it's absolutely insane. Insaning. It's absolutely mind-boggling that people from my, ethnic group end up right in front of me, and from the same area too, of which there's only a population of 500,000. So you have the Konkanis where, I'm not the most intelligent person. I disagree, but like as an ethnicity, you're never going to really find cleaners or laborers or stuff or Konkani. It's just not going to happen because I don't know. It's just like there's a lot of wealth in the families. There's a lot of high degrees of education, a lot of fame. For example, my grandpa worked personally with Gandhi, and he's in this ethnic group, of course. I can send a link to his Wikipedia page. There's a few articles about him. He's an interesting guy. My great grandpa. Did I say grandpa or great grandpa? My great grandpa. So, a lot of the people in the West are made up of Konkanis, but the fact is that because only the best and the brightest from India get the chance to go to the US, and this is a commonly held talking point. It's been debunked. I don't exactly remember what the debunking was, so I'm not really gonna talk about whether I believe or I don't believe in it. My instinct says that it's a misrepresented point, but of course the climate in Europe isn't very easy to live in. So a big theory is that the reason why Europeans supposedly, maybe they do, maybe they don't, have a higher IQ is just because, well, a higher IQ was necessary to survive in those regions, whereas in a place like, India or Africa, it isn't necessary. But China also has incredibly fertile land, and it isn't that difficult to live in China. So that doesn't really explain the disparity amongst Chinese Americans until, of course, again, you take into account there are many groups in China, many regions that have lower than average IQ. So I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on considering Indian Americans a separate ethnicity made up of, ethnic groups in India that on average have higher intelligence. And of course, just even out of those ethnic groups, only the well-educated and the rich having the chance to come to India.
I mean, yeah. So there is absolutely a selection process going on there. And I think that, hold on one second. I think that well, from my own personal experience, I know that I was in Silicon Valley recently, for instance, and there are a tremendous amount of rather rather intelligent people from the subcontinent there. I mean, who I see. To me, I think it's bad. I think this is bad. I think this is tragic. I think that this is. I mean, it's only natural, but it's not even brain drain, as it were. But to me, this makes me sad because this is what happened with my people. Basically, I mean, it was less voluntary in the case of Jews coming to Europe. Jews sort of more went to Europe because they didn't really have anywhere else. I mean, they could have gone further into Asia or West Asia or Africa, but some of them, just chose to go into Europe. But basically, I feel as if it's there. What I detect is that there's kind of a rather strong brain drain, almost, if anything, or not brain drain, but I feel like it's a resource drain, and it's a shame because you have all these people from the subcontinent. You could say, there's overpopulation, etc., but
overpopulation.
You have all these people
ending up. I'll get on that a bit later. The concept of these areas being overpopulated. I'll talk about that a bit later.
All right. Well, I don't know. Do you have a solution to overpopulation in places like South Asia?
I think a lot of people. There's this really weird belief, for example, that yes, Indians are having a lot of kids. That, for example, India was always this small country that really didn't have a big population, and then all of a sudden people got poor and then just started having a lot of babies for no reason. When in actuality, India's only grown proportionally because India and China have always had the most people. They've always had an extremely large population. That population's only grown more or less linearly. Let me find the article, but yes, it has grown a bit faster, but not to the insane rate people do think. So yes, India is populated, but then again, so is the world. In fact, I think it's extremely ironic that Europeans like to call India overpopulated when it was Europe's population that led to them expanding through most of Australia, North America, and most of South America. Let me just find the article about India
go for it.
Having grown linearly. Because India and China have always had incredibly fertile land. 1 second.
The way that I basically conceive of the subcontinent is sort of like Europe, right? It's kind of like Europe because everyone there has some common genetic ancestry from both, I guess one could say, quote, indigenous populations and then sort of steppe populations. And that's true for nearly everyone from what I've seen in terms of genetic studies. Nearly everyone has both of these components in both Europe and the subcontinent. An indigenous component and a steppe component. Are you familiar with what I'm talking about?
Yeah. No, if I'm a bit distracted, it's because I'm trying to look for that article.
It's fine. Take your time.
Yeah. So, what are your thoughts on the shooting that happened yesterday in
what happened exactly? I didn't really follow that.
Oh, I don't know. There was a school shooting. It was in was it in? I think it was in Florida. Yeah, it was in Florida. I just looked it up. It was in Florida.
No, well, we should
ban guns. The guy has a Nicolas Cruz. Might be a Hispanic name. Yeah, that's a Nicolas Cruz. What are your thoughts on gun control then?
Oh, well, I don't really care. It's not really an issue I care much about. I think that most people should have access to, rifles and shotguns. That's not a disputable thing. Most people, I mean, maybe if you live in, I feel like, see, the thing is, not all people are equal. In terms of morality, in terms of intelligence, in terms of
definitely not
so
in
many
terms
factors.
of innate value. Sorry, did I say value? No, definitely not in terms of innate ability.
Well, I would posit that just as not all people are equal, policies should not be looked at in an equal manner, as in, i.e., all people get this, all people get that. But at the same time,
No.
I think that the majority of the populace should have access to weaponry, just simply because, at least basic, at least rifles and shotguns should be legal in all nations throughout the world, because it's enough for people to defend themselves and their family, and that's really, what's necessary in most instances.
With Ben Shapiro, the way I got into him was with gun control, because I actually, I think a lot of the talking points about gun control are ridiculous, and I was really happy to know that he performed really well at debates about gun control. The thing is, people always talk about, oh, I just got a message from a Discord friend watching this. Shout out to Katya. I hope you didn't mind me shouting you out. You messaged me, guns are okay.
Guns are okay.
For example, Ronald Reagan. What I found, so like I was saying with Ben Shapiro, of course he was on the show. Someone brought up Ronald Reagan. They're like, Ronald Reagan was against guns, and he's like, okay, like what does this have to do with anything? And of course, it didn't have to do with anything, and that's why I at first actually liked Ben Shapiro. Then of course I found out that we are like polar opposites on other issues. I thought he was a kind of libertarian, or yeah, I thought he was more of like a Ron Paul type libertarian, which I was back when I got into his videos. I'd say I'm more to the left now, but like then sooner or later, I just found out he's a slimy neocon, which is disgusting. I mean, the guy.
I think neocons are the one group everyone can agree to hate.
They're slimy. Everyone hates neocons, even like amongst the Chapo Trap House community. I was hearing people, they're like, like loads of socialists got out of being a part of the right that hated neocons. I mean, just the only people that don't hate neocons are neocons.
How do you feel about the idea that neoconservatism is effectively sort of this manifestation of, I guess, Jewish identity? Neoconservatism is a vehicle for Jewish interests, sort of these I guess what you would call them, like sort of neo-Cohen / Ziocon forces. And now as sort of like a far right, sort of, I guess, far right Israeli quote unquote nationalist or whatever, these people repulse me because I don't support the way that they behave in their actions in the way they lobby in the West. Yeah,
follow your lines of nation divided thinking. What hated neocon, because really they're the other group that I dislike other than neocons are neoliberals, who are more or less neocons nowadays. And the worst thing, or like the most hilarious thing about neoliberals, is that they don't actually even understand what neoliberalism is. Like it doesn't take. Oh, okay. Nate Tigger is just out of interest, is my friend from Discord. Just so you know. I was libertarian, now I'm lefty. Yeah, I am lefty. I started off as a libertarian a while ago. I was never like a neocon kind of right person. I did make a lot of jokes about neoliberals to the extent some people ended up thinking I was one, but I'm definitely not one either. Yeah, neoliberals don't actually understand what neoliberalism is. Their lines of thinking are amongst social democracy, which is completely different. It's still capitalism, but it's different to neoliberalism. It's a completely different ideology, completely different system. Socialists hate both of those groups of people, but still those two things are not the same. I don't know if anyone who's actually properly read into neoliberalism could be for what it's for, essentially considering it's just a light version of neoconservatism that uses methods more akin to capitalist manipulation and neoconservative, as opposed to just outright neoconservative violence. So, what's your opinion on the Iraq War?
I mean, what do you think? I mean, I think Saddam Hussein was a prick, but
yeah,
I wouldn't have handled it like that.
Nah, it was.
I mean, it destroyed Iraq, so I'm obviously biased in my response.
All they should have done, just gone in, killed Saddam, gone out. People always point to things like the Kurdish genocide when we're talking about how bad Saddam was, and of course, it was good that Saddam was killed, but the thing that people don't pay attention to is that the U.S. didn't care about the Kurdish genocide. They joined. They only attacked because of the false accusations of weapons of mass destruction, and of course because people were saying that Saddam was, harboring Al Qaeda, which wasn't the
Precisely.
case.
They didn't care about
Saddam
Hussein when he was hanging Jews, which is how Saddam
Saddam
Hussein rose to power. He was famous. He was famous for hanging Jews. Like that's his introduction to the scene. He's hanging Jews, and everyone's applauding. And these are allegedly like Jewish traitors. I mean, to the degree to which they were actually traitors is I would say disputable. But basically, he had these alleged Jewish traitors, and he hanged them to a massive applauding audience. And that was the Arab world's introduction to Saddam Hussein. Most people don't know about that introduction because they were introduced to him far later. But that's basically the beginning of his rise to prominence. So that's a little backstory on Saddam Hussein. He was just an asshole who abused minorities. And I'm not against the idea of abusing minorities, but I think that to abuse minorities and then simultaneously attempt to lord over the land of those minorities and deny them sovereignty with an iron fist, I think that that's a bit of a dick move.
Why are you okay with abusing minorities? I mean, I guess
why not, dude? Like because it's like, okay, it's okay. Like this is my land, the land of my ancestors for thousands of years, and then some fucking upstart comes in and is like, oh, I'm gonna come here and move here, and my family's fucking gonna move here and start like having loads of kids and completely, like shift this and that and the other thing around. It's effectively because it's like, a minority group can very easily act as effectively a de facto fifth column. I'm gonna be right back. 1 second.
What the fuck? Okay. Interesting take. Yeah, hello. Yeah, that was an interesting take. Sorry, I'm just reading the. Oh goodness, I closed down.
Take your time. I mean, don't you think so? Like, for instance, I mean, you know how things like this. Like, okay, what would it? Ideally, we have a world with as few people living as minorities as possible, and individually, and even on the small community
level. How would
level,
that work? Having the last world with the are you just wanting a homogenous? Do you want every country to be Japan? I mean, in terms of ideology.
No, I want every country to be what every country was historically speaking. I mean, yes,
what was every country historically speaking?
Kind of like how most countries outside of the Westosphere, I guess, of ideological influence, or the sort of post-Enlightenment sphere, are today. Like most countries in Africa, not even, because a lot of those in Africa and the Middle East were drawn up along colonial lines, but most countries in Asia today, or a good deal of countries in Asia today, are, even if they're majority, even if they're countries that have minorities in them, those minorities are all sort of clustered around one area. It's not like the minority is sort of like evenly dispersed and intermeshed and interwoven into the society. It'll be like, okay, here, this part of the island belongs to this other people who sailed here, like years later. But like, see what I mean? It's more, I think that ideally we would have a world, kind of like a world of Japan's, but of course, I mean, in big cities and port cities and whatnot, there's always going to be places like New York. There are always going to be places like New York City or places like Basra or whatever that are going to have like minorities. Like, I mean, like, I don't care about that. That's how ideas are exchanged, and like that's how some of the brightest minds meet, even if only temporarily. But I think that in general, the minority experience, not most people. I cannot really think of many instances. I can think of far more instances wherein being a minority is unpleasant, both for the minority group and for the, quote, host indigenous population, as well as I can think of more instances where it's unpleasant for both parties involved than not. And the subcontinent is an exception to these rules. Subcontinent is unique in the fact that it has taken in, fairly sizable minorities somewhat well. Like, for instance, but even then, there have been conflicts, if not even necessarily with the Jews, but certainly even with the Christians and Islamic.
India is one of the very few countries out there that didn't have anti-Semitism. In fact, the only anti-Semitic incident I can think of in India was from Pakistani Muslim terrorists, which was this kind of annoyed me too, because the West was only talking about the 6 Israelis that were killed in the incident, when it was like 160 Indians as well, and they're talking about like insane terror attack against Israel, and they also phrased it as if it was a crime carried out by local Indians, when actually it was just a broad attack. Like it's comparable to like the Al Qaeda attack on the U.S. You wouldn't say, you know, like the way it was phrased, it made it seem as if Indians carried out the attack against Jews, or like the government covered it up or something. Like I was very annoyed and disappointed at the coverage of 26/11 or the 2008 Mumbai attacks. But yeah, Jews have been like the Jews in India have been like one of the very few regions of the world where Jews were able to go to without much anti-Semitism. My friend, she asked a question in chat. She asked, are you a centrist cuck? No one in this chat is centrist. He's very far right and I'm left.
So, yeah, no one in this chat is. Okay, no someone asked why. So someone also asked, how did you go from being a libertarian to? How do you go from being libertarian to? Oh, someone asked me if I'm a centrist cuck. Oh, that's funny because no, Sargon of Akkad is. Not. I'm actually a Middle Eastern person. Like I just call myself Babylonian Hebrew because it's another way of saying like Jew from the ancient area that used to be designated Babylon, or Jew that had ancestors who resided in that region. Sargon of Akkad is just some fucking I don't know, like pasty octoroon from England. Like he has nothing to do with the Middle East.
Fake. If I hear, okay, here's the thing to implement, like Sargon of Akkad, he really annoys me. Not because of what he says, although that does annoy me. He annoys me because he's a faux liberal. He's a classic liberal, and like David Pakman had a good take on this. What does it mean to be a classic liberal? Like, what does that even mean? Because Sargon of Akkad, because what's it called? Dave Rubin calls himself a classic liberal, and he's like totally for universal healthcare, but then he's also against big government. But then like Ben Shapiro also calls himself a, you know, he also considers himself to be a quote unquote classic liberal, but he also but he's against healthcare, and like he often debates against people who are for universal healthcare. Like really the term classical liberal doesn't mean anything. It really doesn't mean anything. It's just a word for people to hide behind. And
well, now it's liberalist.
Yeah, the way I did that, I got kind of proselytized almost from being a, you know, Ron Paul kind of ideology holder to a he got demolished by Spencer. Really? I mean, Richard Spencer, he smiles a lot and he seems all happy and stuff, you know, about his entire, you know, I'm not a Nazi. Let me just, you know, go Heil America and do a quote unquote Roman salute to show you how much I'm not a Nazi whilst I talk about.
Okay. Richard
I'm sorry. Nazis are the only Nazis out there. It's like these people will relentlessly call, they'll hate being called Nazi because they'll be like, really? No. According to them, the only Nazis in existence, or the only people who can be deemed to be a Nazi, are people who are actual
National Socialists from World War II. Germany. But that makes sense. I understand where they're coming from.
Sense. But at the same time, they like to. Fascist is a similar label. Like the concept of fascism, as it was, you know, the Giovanni Gentile. You know, origin, like his
fascism originates from futurism in a sense.
Like lefties are the real fascists or something like that, but then lefties weren't, you know, in fascist Italy at the time. So like, I don't know where that argument comes from. I mean, you're gonna just have to explain that. You're just gonna have to accept whenever someone yells at you saying you're a Nazi, they just think that you have ideas, maybe they're wrong, maybe they're right, that are dangerously similar to, you know, those of the German National Socialists.
This is the annoying thing, though, is that. The irritating thing to me is that, first of all, the Nazi thing, when people start saying, oh, Nazi this, Nazi that, it implies that usually the label is given to a Westerner, right? A Westerner who wants to have some sort of national pride or ethnic pride or whatever, something like that, you know, racial awareness, etc., whatever, however you want to describe it. Point is, it makes it seem as if all to call it Nazi, it it conflates a regime which is, regardless of, we can talk about history and that's like its own conversation, but regardless of what the actual history is, the way that the Nazi regime is perceived, at least in the West, quote, the West, is that the Nazis were belligerent, bellicose, supremacist, expansionist, and that they wished to expand and subjugate, and not that they were, let's say, sort of isolationist people.
They definitely were not. Yeah, no, they were not like. They aren't comparable to something like, I guess.
Many of the people who literally who are being called Nazis, though, today.
I mean, their entire aim was
people who
literally the entirety of Europe. I don't think that
Yeah, exactly. But the people who are being called Nazis today, a lot of them are like the opposite. A lot of them are like, we literally just want to be able to like self-determine / be left alone, or just be able to like to be able to not be castigated by our own elites for desiring self-determination.
Nazis is just an interest. I prefer a short answer because I want to go into something interesting.
Yeah, that's fine.
Would you rather judge someone by their actions or their intentions? For example, Mao's extermination of 70 million Chinese people is a ridiculously high number, but it was through methods that were probably not intended, as in he didn't make a lot of comments about not really caring about the genocide. But would you consider, for example, let's say Mao killed how many people did the Holocaust kill? Like the number changes depending on who I'm talking to.
6 billion. I believe 6 billion is the current figure.
6 billion?
Said 6 billion. 6 billion.
I know, I heard. No, but in all seriousness,
I don't know, dude. Like loads of people. I mean,
just
I don't know what
approximate.
I don't know about quote the Holocaust. Okay, I don't know about quote the Holocaust, but I'm saying World War II killed a fuck ton of people, millions. Let's say tens of millions of people.
In fact, most of the deaths were from the Allies.
Like 100 million people or some shit. No, that's too many. No, it must have. World War II killed. All right, okay, let's just say quote the okay, let's just say for the reference of this conversation, exactly 6 million. 6,000,66666 people died in the Holocaust. Continue.
Well, that's not accurate because it's 6 million Jews and a lot of other groups were killed too. So usually the number floats from anywhere between 8 million to 15 million. I go with 10 million.
So I go with 10 billion. Yeah, but courses for horses. Go ahead. So you were saying.
But let's take 10 million as the number because
okay, 10 million.
That's typically the.
Yeah, that's fine. That's
fine. 11 million. I've heard 11 million too. So we'll take 10 million as the number. So like I was saying, would you be? Let's say Mao killed 15 million Chinese people accidentally, because he obviously killed a lot more and not totally accidentally. But let's say Mao killed 15 million Chinese people accidentally. Would you think that? Kadi, I'd really appreciate that you don't start with the anti-Semitism, especially as what are you, a Turk? You're a Turk, aren't you? No, she's from no, not you. Her. Yeah. She's from I don't know where she's from. Oh no, you're from. I don't know if I should say a country near Turkey. I don't know if you'd be okay.
It's okay. We don't need to dox the people in the text chat.
We can information. It's not doxing. It's the country they're from. You can know my country. It's Dubai. And I literally know you're in NYC. You've mentioned it before.
True. Found me.
So
you were saying,
hey, Katya, don't fake your suicide over those docs. Sorry, it's an inside joke.
So you were saying,
yeah, I forgot what I was saying.
Something about
Oh yeah, of course. So would you judge someone who killed 11 million people? Yeah. Not entirely on purpose. Would you consider them to be worse than someone who had highly industrialized methods of
No, not necessarily. Killing? I might be down to kill 11 million people. I mean, I don't know, industrially, maybe I want to kill 11 million people industrially because not all killing is murder.
Under what circumstances would you ever be okay with?
I can think of 5 different. I can think of 5 different circumstances right now where I can think of why I would support mass industrialized slaughtering of humans. All right, you want me to list them all?
Okay, that would be interesting.
Okay,
just briefly.
People who are being penalized, many different means of it being a penalty. People who have done heinous, terrible acts. Another instance could be people who, geez, I mean. There, I mean, it's all variations of effectively punish. It's all variations of effectively punishment. But the point is, like it doesn't matter. Like, there are many situations where the accident could be worse, and there are many situations where the accident couldn't be worse. I genuinely think it depends on the specific circumstance.
Okay. Well,
sorry, I'm getting really deep with you here, dude. I'm really, but you see what I'm saying, right? Like, it really ultimately comes down to it. Like, there are situations where, you know, like, if it was 11 million Elsagate content creators, I would flip the switch in a second.
You would?
But I don't. I would flip the switch in a fucking heartbeat. I don't care about those people. That isn't even killing people to me. Those people are those people. I mean, like, you see what I mean? Yeah. It really varies so much on the specific situation. But sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, we're laughing at the Young Turks, and you know, like the Young Turks, right? The liberal show. Yeah, you know, Cenk Uygur was like a conservative, and like if you've read like his earlier work, the way he talks about women is disgusting.
And
Cenk Uygur.
Oh,
Cenk Uygur, the Turk. I've heard about and you know, the quote unquote progressive who literally named his show after the people that carried out the Armenian genocide.
What do you watch then, dude? If you don't like the Young Turks, as like a lefty or whatever you are, what do you watch? Sam Seder?
I love Sam Seder. Sam Seder.
Fuck, I do not like Sam Seder.
You don't like Sam Seder?
Sam Seder is such a fucking new. He's a fucking new male bugman atheist.
You know, he knows.
Dude, atheism is fucking terrible, dude. Atheism is destroying materialism. Rather, is cancerous.
Okay. Oh yeah, I can understand materialism. For example, I'd say that I'm kind of like, cause here's the thing about religion in the subcontinent is like. You had, of course, Buddhism, which was like the teachings of, oh God, how do you say his name? Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, right? Who is an actual historical figure. A lot of people like to act like he's not, like he's no, like he's like it's not really like a religion as more as it is just like, you know, like imagine like Jordan Peterson, an Indian prince. That's the example I use. Like, I'm sure there's people out there who think of Jordan Peterson as equivalent to God. But if you ask me, the Buddha had far greater ideals, and of course, like, his legacy has been insane. Especially like it always makes me chuckle whenever people talk about Indian architecture. They reference something like the Taj Mahal, which was built by
Mughal, right?
Yeah, that's Mughal. That was like those were Mughal invaders. That's why it's shaped like a mosque.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
But you think about something like Japan. What you don't know is that like the Japanese pagodas are derivative of like ancient Indian temples. Not all of which were Buddhist. A lot of which, like, really, whenever people think of Japanese architecture, they're just thinking of a take on Indian architecture. But whenever they think of Indian architecture, they're thinking of not even a take on Mughal architecture, but literally just like something built by the Arabs themselves.
Yeah, I see what you mean. We was Japanese architects and shit. No. I think that's interesting, actually, and I know about some of this convergence. Just like it's one of those interesting little things. Like, for instance, Southeast Asia also has a lot of older architecture that's reminiscent of architecture that's found in subcontinent at same time periods, as well as you find this sort of Greco-Iranian stone carvings in India, if I'm not mistaken, or around Afghanistan and South Asia. India,
I think someone just made a. Are you familiar with $1 Million Extreme?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I believe that was $1 Million Extreme. Anthony Fantano, you know Anthony Fantano?
Yes, of course.
Anthony Griptano.
Yeah, I'm a big fan, actually. I like his stuff. He's a pretty good root for what he does, music review, even regardless of what he.
He's a centrist.
Centrist. See, all right, here. How did you go from being? You say you went from being a libertarian to a leftist. Like, explain that, because I'm curious. How can Jeez, this noise is irritating. Hold on. To me, I don't understand. Like, how can shit? Not. libertarian to a leftist, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I don't find libertarianism very appealing at all. I never really went through much of a libertarian.
You're right. It isn't really. Libertarianism is like there isn't much to it. Eventually, I just like because like if you're gonna have a conversation about why I'm leftist, like that's gonna be an entirely different topic. But really, the transition from libertarianism to being a leftist, like if you're gonna ask me about a leftist, I'd be okay with that. But that would be something else because it's gonna take a while to discuss. It's more or less just because libertarianism doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make sense, like as an ideology.
Well, like it's yeah. Well, I would say that. Well, it depends what you define leftism, but I guess like modern post-enlightenment leftism, as most people conceive it, I think.
Noam Chomsky, kind of thinking. That's basically where my.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting.
So
I used to read a lot of Noam Chomsky, actually. Yeah. But
even if you don't agree with his politics, by the way, his work on linguistics is incredibly interesting.
Yeah, and he's not too dumb. I mean, he is kind of like senile, but his work is interesting.
He's adorable. He's like an adorable old man.
I don't disagree with like he has done a lot of fairly good factual work in terms of like his like sort of view on like American empire and whatnot. I personally am
imperialism. He's good on it.
I am against the current world order that's dominating the Western world, and I think that
What do you think of Christopher Hitchens?
Oh, I think his brother is way better, dude. Christopher Hitchens is just some fucking ranting atheist
polemicist.
Oh, God is mean. God is
Christopher Hitchens went completely insane after 9/11, and he turned into a neocon.
Oh yeah, that too. There was that whole thing, and he supported the Iraq War. Like
exactly.
Yeah, a Jewish neocon who fucking knew. Like, I mean, that's not much of a surprise to me. Though
he didn't even know. He like literally just found out he was Jewish. Like,
yeah, that's true. That's true.
All of a sudden, he's like, oh yeah, I'm Jewish, by the way. So like.
I feel. I mean, I feel like. I mean, I could tell. I mean, I can tell he looks like a Middle East, part Middle Eastern dude, kind of like if you look at him and his brother. I mean, I like his brother way better. His brother's actually one of the people that kind of led to me being a person who believes in God, you know, and here, it was him. It was Peter Hitchens making the moral argument. Someone asked in the chat, "Are you an anarcho-syndicalist?"
This reminds me of the Monty Python scene. We're an anarcho-syndicalist commune. I love that. I would say I have a vague sympathy for Indian syndicalism. But yeah. I would say I'm a anarcho-socialist, anarcho-syndicalist kind of. Yeah, that is basically my line of thinking.
Anarcho-social. Interesting. Okay. All right, we can move into. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so a big part of why we started like the World War II thing is because I want to talk about perspectives. So
okay,
I'm guessing you're totally against the British colonization of India.
I mean, totally against. I'm not totally against it, but if something similar happens to my people, which it has before in the past to varying degrees, I feel like it's a humiliation and an affront. I would rather, even if, let's say, hypothetically, the colonialism brought in all this great infrastructure and all this different technology from all around the world,
that's the thing,
and universalized things with the English language. But like, even if it did, I would forego all of those conveniences.
Yeah, it doesn't matter
in order to retain my national pride, because I don't want to be fucking cut. You know, like I have too much pride for that.
The thing about, just out of interest, like, could you list like maybe like even like 2 or 3 good things that you think the British did for India? Because the other day I tried to
universalize the language.
I would agree with that, except anything else?
I mean,
why English?
No, I mean, benefits of colonialism in India. Did they build any degrees of infrastructure or railroads that exist today? The Bank of India was founded by a Jew, not an Englishman.
Yeah, of course. There's a lot of
an Iraqi Jew. Like
the very first Miss India was also
parliamentary system. If you like parliamentary system, I think democracy is stupid. So I, of course, would not be in favor of this. But if you like, you know, all these stupid fucking dumb like Western things, like not Western sort of post-enlightenment things, like maybe they will work in some like sort of, you know, like some of the countries in the parts of the world where this ideology sprang from in some manners. But I don't think that. You know,
are you aware that
Enlightenment values are stupid? Well,
Are you aware that capitalism is just banned in India? Like you cannot be a there is one registered capitalist party, but just for the most part, capitalism is banned.
that's interesting. I mean, I don't really care communism, capitalism, but India seems to have a fundamentally kind of now more enlightenment-ish lens from which it sees the world now that it has the democratic parliament.
Yeah. The thing about like India in terms of economic ideology is it's always going to be, well, not always, but like ever since the British left, it's always been, a left-leaning country, at least economically from the structure up, except it's filled with crony capitalism, corruption, etc. So, this leads a lot of people to think it's a capitalist state because of the hierarchy. But like in terms of its systems and the way it's built, it's actually fundamentally a socialist, borderline in some like ways, borderline almost like communist China, except China is a lot more totalitarian, whereas India is a
communist China is basically it's like national socialism. It's like, and I mean that when I say, or corporatism, sort of national corporatist social. It's national. China's very national, or it's very tribalist. It's very identitarian, from my experience. With friends that I know who have been to China recently, and my experiences with dealing with extensive amounts of people coming directly from mainland China, primarily tourists. Seems to be very quite. There is this sort of nationalistic bent to it, although it's more nuanced than that because China is this sort of multicultural polity, kind of like the Russian Federation.
China's almost like some kind of communist capitalist hybrid nowadays.
Yeah, precisely. I don't think that a true communist would approve of a country.
No, they definitely wouldn't.
China or North Korea. North Korea is another one of these sort of nationalists.
The heavy socialist support for like the free debate movement. By the way, people in chat are making like poo and loo jokes. I just want to let you know that the poo and loo thing is completely like ridiculous because I don't know about other regions of India, but in Bangalore, I've never seen anyone pooing on loo. And just out of interest,
you've never seen anyone poo in a loo. So what do they do? Just poo?
Sorry, not poo. I've never seen anyone. I've not seen anything to actually give the poo in loo joke any basis because Bangalore for the most part, whilst not be sanitary, the only garbage I ever see is like candy wrappers and stuff.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
So really, you're talking about a country that has like a population larger than the entirety of the US plus Canada plus the entirety of Europe plus Australia. So I don't know how relevant those comments are, but those. Have you ever seen like those memes where it's like creepy Indian guys sending like girls messages?
Not only have I seen those memes, I've encountered people like that on the internet.
You have. What I find bizarre is firstly because for example, on reddit.com/r/teenagers, if you made any such comment about black people, they would jump on you like insane. But for example, like Indians are like a punching bag that is totally okay to make fun of, which is really bizarre to me. But have you? That's true, as an Indian, yeah, you could never say anything like that about black people.
It's because black people will punch you back. Punching back.
Indians that's our weakness.
I feel like Indians are passive and more down to make fun of themselves. I feel.
I think we. But sometimes when you take the stereotypes to an extent, like when you had that German professor, firstly, Germany as a country is just trying to a lot of people talk about Indian immigrants to Germany and they complain about it, okay? Germany is the country that's going to Indian schools and telling them, please teach your students German. We need Indian minds in Germany. They are doing that. It's not like Indian schools are teaching German. They're like, oh, okay, go to Germany, go to Germany. German universities are going to Indian schools. They're like, please, in some cases even paying the schools, please teach your students German. We want them to come to Germany.
Oh, that is great. Hold on one second. I'm getting a phone call.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I might as well talk about it now. If you've ever seen that meme where it's like milk truck arrive, it's originally from Reddit old people Facebook, so it's not even an Indian meme. And furthermore, people in India don't even actually know what people in India don't even actually know what a truck is. The word is lorry in India, so it's very likely. Also, the majority of Indians have never. Indians, I say people in India, don't know what the word nude is. they'll use the Hindi word for, is this the Jew or the Indian speaking? It's me speaking. I'm the one with the Spike Spiegel profile picture. Yeah. Haven't we voice chatted before? You don't know?
Hello?
So yeah, it's fine. I was just talking to my friend. She was like, is it the Jew or the Indian speaking? I prefer you could call us by our real names than our identities. I had to enter it, but you know, you've already known me for like what, a week, and you can't tell it's my voice. It's only showing his picture. That's bizarre.
Here,
can you see the Spike Spiegel profile picture?
Now it'll show Spike Spiegel. All right. Okay.
Nice.
So, okay.
But yeah, I was just talking about how those Indian memes don't make any sense, because like there's this meme. It's like milk truck arrived, but in India people don't say the word truck; they say lorry, and of course it's not even a Indian. So like, you know, you just have things like this. Like, as a person who's immersed in Indian culture, it's like these memes aren't even relevant to Indians. Like, you go to like a German and you start talking about like Nazis, they'll tell you're trying to stereotype them. You know, you go up to like a American, you start talking about hamburgers, they'll know you're trying to stereotype them.
If you go to an Indian and you start talking about shitting streets,
they're gonna be like, "What is? Are you retarded? Hello?" Like, they don't know what you're talking about. Trust me, they really
don't know about shitting. So shitting streets is just a meme.
It's not a thing.
Yeah, designated shitting streets. I thought
that thing was posted by an Australian guy pretending to be Indian. By the way, there's no such thing as like designated shitting streets in India. It just doesn't exist.
Designated. Well, you heard it here. All right. If anyone has a rebuttal, you know, feel free to post it. Okay. So
for the record, my friend is saying something. I didn't ban you from my Discord server for anime. I banned you because you won't stop posting pictures of traps.
I was going
There's a big difference between sending actual pictures of transgenders nonstop and having Spike Spiegel as your profile picture.
UNICEF video. There's a rebuttal. UNICEF video.
Let's see that.
You don't know the video? Oh, come on, dude. You don't know the origin of the Pooh and Lou meme? Dude, are you kidding me?
Oh, that one. Okay, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, take your Pooh to the Lou.
Yeah. I don't think but like the designated streets implies that there's actual streets that are specifically designed for when they just do it on any street. So
yeah, fair enough. Yeah, so it's not designated.
Yeah.
Let's see. What was I saying?
Also, it was made by a bunch of New Yorkers, which you know,
Lou?
Exactly. It wasn't even made by Indians, of course. So like, I don't really think they have any understanding of the country's issues to try and make some kind of viral video for Indians to share. Like, they try and make this
blow up.
Make a viral video for the Indians. It didn't go viral in India.
Yeah, it blew up on
viral everywhere else. That's really dumb. Like, it's so adorable. They think, oh, we'll make a. But you think that you can solve this entire issue by just making a silly animation? It's so patronizing and ridiculous.
Yeah, it is pretty over the top. Like, I saw it and I was like, damn, yeah, that's absolutely ludicrous. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Yeah, I mean, shit. It is unbelievably patronizing. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't know, because it does give the implication that there is a need that people aren't already doing this, but I haven't been on the ground, so I wouldn't be able to say. Like, tell me about the street shitting situation. Like, do people just shit on the streets?
Yeah, but it's because this is
no.
Screw the Chinese.
I just want to hear the.
Screw the Chinese internet, because they're like probably the ones that started this meme. The India are stinky. They poo on the loot. Like, you just look at half of these memes. They're from the Chinese internet. They rip on India constantly because we're having a cultural war with one another right now, which I think is ridiculous.
Is there a land dispute?
No, there isn't a land dispute, but there is a cultural war because these two countries are the most populous in the world. According to some counts, India might even be more populous than China. So you have the two largest countries in the world now trying to exert foreign influence. One of them is a highly censored, authoritarian country. The other one's a democratic country that's just gone haywire. So
Do you like the Modi government? It's better than those Congress Party fucking cucks, am I right? Congress Party cucks. Who
My great grandpa was in the Congress. What's your thoughts on Indira Gandhi, if you know who she is?
Was she the one in the corruption scandal?
No, she was. She's not related to the actual famous Gandhi everyone thinks about when they hear the name Gandhi. The surname's just a coincidence. She's the one who blew up
the prime minister, right?
No, that's no. You're thinking of Sonia Gandhi, who's not even actually ethnically Indian. She's like 100% Italian by blood.
I thought she was half Italian.
Yeah. No, she's 100% Italian. She's literally straight out of Italy. Like people think she's Indian because she looks Indian, but she's not. She just looks Indian in like Indian attire. She's actually 100% racially Italian. Like I was saying, Indira Gandhi is like controversial because of the Sikh desire to create their own country, Khalistan. She blew up a temple, and in response, she was murdered by Sikhs. And then Sikhs also bombed. I always find it funny how Sikhs are always like, stereotyped as being very peaceful people when they carried out like the Canadian equivalent to 9/11, the Air India bombing.
Are Sikhs considered peaceful? Like, don't they carry around like weapons?
They carry around
guns and
weapons
swords
everywhere.
and shit.
Yeah, especially on the internet. If you go on Reddit, every day people are just like circle jerking. They're like, hey, they have this. They're like the token minority. They're like, hey, because a lot of Sikhs were killed following 9/11 because they were considered with.
Yeah, Sikhs are bro tier. I know the meme.
Yeah. But like a lot of them were confused with Muslims following 9/11. So this meme started before the culture war. What are you even talking about? No, I just said a lot of this is propagated by the Chinese internet. It's popular. Yeah, going to Reddit. Okay, like I don't get the point. But anyways, like I'm saying, like you see it on Reddit, you see it like everywhere. People are like, hey, they're like virtue signaling. They're like, hey, I know that Sikhs and Muslims aren't the same people. Look how nice Sikh people are. Here's a video of some Sikh people dressed up as the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like, who cares? Really, who cares? And they're not peaceful people. I mean, I like...
No, but there's a difference. Sikhs do not have any imperial aspirations outside of...
Maybe not, but like, I don't stereotype the entire region. Right? But like, Hindus, despite there being way more Hindus than there are Sikhs in North America, Hindus have never carried out any terror attacks. Meanwhile, Sikhs have carried out like...
Are you sure about that, dude? Dude, there are definitely things that you could classify as terror attacks. Like, what about
maybe? But I'm not talking about
like all the mosque burnings and shit. Not saying it's bad. I'm just saying like
not saying it's bad. It's not that bad to burn.
I mean, like it's defending your indigenous religion, your indigenous land against like a foreign colonial force.
I was talking about Hindus in North America.
Oh, okay. I see. Okay, yeah.
Of which there haven't been. Maybe like there was an Indian who got a bit angry and like slapped a Muslim once, but I think that's it.
Yeah,
it's nothing comparable to like Pakistani Muslims blowing up like Jewish community centers and like massacring civilians in Mumbai. Like India's done some pretty bad stuff in Pakistan too, but like it's the levels are Sikhs are nice. Yeah, okay, so we have some Bunty is like a stereotypical Sikh name. Just reading the comments.
I don't understand where Bunty King came from. Like he just blew up out of nowhere. Same with Andy Worski. Like where do these people come from?
I don't really know.
Yeah. All right, so okay, the thing is, Sikhs, like, okay, I'd say that there is something unique about Muslims, and one could also say Christians, or not necessarily unique, but they imperialize upon.
They have the urge to spread their religion because they believe that non-Christians are going to hell.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Jews don't believe that, do they?
No, you can live a moral life without being a Jew.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, I'm pretty sure that according to the I'm pretty sure that I haven't actually ever committed a sin according to Judaism.
Hmm. Have you ever eaten?
I mean,
what animals? I don't know. Like,
oh, that's true. I have eaten. I have
you
eaten
can't
plenty
eat
of pork.
camels. I just found out recently that you can't eat camel in Judaism, like because
Well,
because of the
I've never eaten a
formation.
camel, but I do eat a good bit of pork. So I guess I have broken kosher. But is breaking kosher a sin?
I believe so, yeah. And
Is
like
it?
I was about to order all this camel meat, but then I realized that it's not kosher. Camel jerky, actually, camel jerky. It's good, and I want to also try kangaroo jerky. I'm looking that up right now. Is kangaroo kosher?
Ostrich is ostrich kosher?
A kangaroo does not chew the hud and does not chew the cud and does not have a cloven hoof, so it is not kosher. Kangaroo is not kosher, so I won't be able to try the kangaroo meat either.
Yeah, I know. I eat shellfish and pork and even not eating beef. By the way, like there's no like there's nothing in the Hindu texts, which I say Hindu texts, but like I said, the thing about the subcontinent was like that religion was really wide and like diverse, and the entire concept of Hinduism being one monolithic religion only came from colonization. Like before that, it was accepted for what it was, which was a multitude of different ideas. So like, there's no real guidance. So like, I eat beef happily. What's really bad is slaughtering a cow yourself, like literally walking over to a cow with your own knife and slaughtering it, which I haven't done. So as far as I'm aware, I'm a good Hindu boy. Most of the atrocities committed by the British in India were actually committed by Irish soldiers generals. That's interesting. I wasn't aware of that. I mean, to idolize Irish War of Independence. Yeah, that's an interesting point. What's really interesting to me is Germany, Nazi Germany. Nazi Germany was actually pretty sympathetic to Indian independence. So far as like to the extent you actually had like, things like the Indian Legion or the Provisional Government of India, which was like a puppet government set up by Imperial Japan in India, which is pretty weird. So yeah. Really, I completely understand the Indian urge to have like fought on the Axis side, because really, why would you fight for a regime that killed 30 million of your people? It's ridiculous. It's 3 times the number of the people that were killed in the Holocaust, by the way. Almost half as many people as Mao killed.
Yeah. It's interesting. I have a question for you. You don't seem to be a big fan of colonialism, right?
Definitely not. No.
Yeah. All right. So this goes back to what I was saying earlier. Earlier, I was saying, as I said earlier, multiculturalism really, in the instances of when it comes to group dynamics, it breeds resentment and tension, and sometimes even on the individual level, it leads to a loss of social capital, as you can see in the writings of people like Robert D. Putnam. He writes a book called Bowling Alone. I think that people would be happier and there would be less conflict and less racism if we live in a world with less big scale sort of population movements and interactions of peoples, like colonialism, imperialism, and migration, etc. Like the more we can limit that geographically, I think the happier people will be overall. The more social capital there will be around the world. You'd say, yeah.
No. I'd say, yeah, I get where you're coming from. I don't necessarily agree, though.
What makes you hesitate here? I'm curious because I haven't talked to a true lefty. I haven't talked to many true lefties with sort of laying all my, I guess, values on the table. Like I'm genuinely curious.
So we should break this down. So firstly, you're just completely against immigration, even skilled migration. So what you really want is a cultural divide.
I'm not completely against it. I mean, I just think that
you just think it's a bad thing for humanity to strive towards.
Yes.
Okay.
The more
what you really want is a cultural divide.
culture, sure. I mean, it's not cultural. It's not just cultural. It's culture. It's cultural. It's cultural and ethnic, and it's based on, you know, people should generally stay in the places
based on blood and identity. So, do you think that, for example, like, yeah, there's a lot of buzzing coming from your end. There's a lot of things that are. There's a lot of things that cultures have taken from other cultures. For example, I was telling you earlier about like how Japanese pagodas are derivative of, you know, at their base. I mean, I think they got it through China, but China, of course, got it from India. What are your thoughts on like cultural inspirations or picking ups from other countries? Do you think that those should be limited, or, you know, what do you think? For example, people like to talk about how insanely homogenous Japan is. You know, like Japan is like, you know, the right's favorite tool because, you know, they can A, refer to it to pretend that they aren't white supremacists, or B, because, you know, like, or B, they can you know, there's this entire honorary Aryan thing, which even the Nazis believed in, because really the Nazi theory of race, the Nazi theory of race is, and I don't think that the modern day people espouse it, because if they did, they'd be totally okay with Arabs considering the Saudi connection. Was really just based on politics. It was really just based on whoever at the very top thought, okay, this country is allied with us. They're an okay race now.
Yeah, which is why it's ridiculous when people can compare modern HBD people and quote race realists to the Nazis. You know, it's not. But
at the same time, the Nazis were also like race realists. So I think the comparison is in a lot of cases valid. Maybe it's a bit of a stretch, but really, I think
everyone was race realist back then. Everyone was race realist.
Everyone was, but did people really act on it? Like this is something like
all the time.
People often like to act about. People like to talk about Gandhi. Like, I'm sure you've heard about that entire thing about like Gandhi being racist, right?
Yeah, I have, and that's dumb. Like, there's so many.
That's ridiculous because he has put his life on the line so many times for, like it or not, even darker skinned Indians. He's like the things he's done, like everything he's done, in my opinion, completely outweighs the comments he made about Black people in South Africa when he was in South Africa. And he did some supposedly, like, you know, pretty sexually perverse things with his relatives, which I can't really defend. But really, at the end of the day, like, I don't really know if that ties into what he did for India. I mean, like, Gandhi as a person, I mean, it always stuns me whenever people think that Gandhi single-handedly defeated the British Empire just by peacefully marching. Like, that's not the way it was. Or like there's this belief that, you know, Martin Luther King just marched down the street and then like people cried whilst Black people were being beaten up and they showed it on TV. And then the next day, you know, LBJ was like, racism is bad. I vote to end it. And that's how civil rights happened. People have this sort of idea. Really, the axis crumbled the British Empire, and Gandhi was just able to to scrape away the last fragments. The real Indian independence years are the ones that gave their life fighting to free India, often through violence.
Like who? Bhagat Singh or whatever?
Yeah, Bhagat Singh, definitely. Subhash Chandra Bose, who was allied with the Axis, of course. Yeah. So
yeah, that's true. It's funny. He actually met with Hitler, didn't he?
He did. And the funny thing is, I calculated it. I'm like 6 handshakes away from Hitler. So I've like by proxy shaken Hitler's hand because my great-grandpa, like I said, was an Indian politician, so he's obviously shaken the hands of people like Jawaharlal Nehru, who I don't know if Jawaharlal Nehru's ever shaken Subhash Chandra Bose's hand. I wouldn't be surprised, but probably, very probably not, because, you know, the time periods are different. But yeah, I completely forgot the way exactly that it works, but yeah, I'm like 5 to 6 handshakes away from Hitler.
That's pretty interesting, honestly. I mean, and it makes.
I mean, it's easy when you have a relative who knew famous people. So
yeah, and the thing that's interesting is really the formation of modern India. I find fascinating because it's India, Israel, Japan. These are all countries that are Asian countries that are transitioning rapidly into sort of like modern Westerns. quote modern Western systems, like these enlightenment sort of systems of thought.
India's gone insane with their Indian adoption of Western culture. Jesus Christ, it's failed.
I think it's failed. Well, I
there's
think
an entire The thing is that by definition, and Judaism isn't like this, but Christianity and Islam are. Like Christianity and Islam teach that like everyone has to be a Christian or a Muslim, and it really gives you that urge to go out and of course, like, you know, things like apostasy and stuff is punishable by. Is apostasy punishable by death in Christianity? I don't think it is it?
In Christianity?
Yeah.
I don't know anything about Christianity. It is in Judaism and Islam.
It is in Islam. I know it is in Islam, but like in Hinduism and Buddhism, there's no concept of apostasy because it's just like ideology. Like you can stop being an ideology, like you know, you're one meat hook away from a lady. The people like to idolize Japan because of anime.
Is that really your theory? Because of, I guess, yeah, because of anime.
No, it is true, because if it wasn't for Japan's like massive because I told you earlier I'm learning Japanese just for the fun of it because it's a difficult language and it seems interesting, and I did dabble a bit in Ifrit as well, but I think that it's probably best to not get too into it because it might confuse things for when I eventually start Arabic, which I should probably learn living in an Arab country.
I mean, that's fair. I think that... hold on one sec. Hold on. What was I going to say? Sorry, I just got sidetracked by a second. Someone sent me a message.
All right.
Someone said, talk about the Buddhist concept of hell.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't know very much about Buddhism. I have a lot of people I know a lot of people who do know a lot about Buddhism, but I could get one of them on sometime. But let's see, what was I saying earlier? So you mentioned something about Japan and something about white supremacy. But okay, here.
Yeah.
Is there any difference fundamentally between a European person, a person from the Middle East, a person from the subcontinent, etc., saying, I want my people to have some sort of polity or some other means of self-determination if it's done in an isolationist manner? I don't think there are very many truly supremacist people. I mean, I believe there are supremacists in this world. Like, for instance, I believe that there are most certainly Arab supremacists. There are Arabs who believe that Arabs should and ought to rule over, you know, Assyrians and Jews and Kurds and whatnot. But there are also people who are just sort of like, you know, oh, we want self-determination type situation. Like, I feel like the term supremacist is thrown around a lot these days. I'm curious to know what you mean by that.
Oh,
this is just one point you mentioned, and
they'll admit that Asians or Jews have a higher IQ, but then they'll also do things, and they'll bring up points, and they'll act as if like East Asians are autistic or less moral by nature, or like mentally like socially retarded, and like they're just slaves and they're not capable of being creative. So, you know, often it's just viewed as a poster boy for, hey, look, really, we're not racist. We're supporting the establishment of these you know, homogenous countries too. When in actuality, Japan is absolutely like the racism in Japan. People think that they're a polite culture. I don't know much about them, but from what I've read and from family that have gone to Japan, they're absolutely not. They do put on a really nice show for outsiders, but they're really not.
Well, polite. I've been there once.
You have? Which part?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, of course. And I stopped in a few other major cities. I was quite young. I was like 15, 14. I was traveling with my chorus. But basically, the thing that I find so interesting about it is they have a means of they'll present sort of they'll have what they say, and then they'll have what they're actually thinking. It's quite interesting. Yeah. So what was I saying earlier? There was oh yeah, you asked me what my thoughts were on cultural exchange. Yeah, cultural exchange. Yeah. I'm not against cultural exchange. Cultural exchange has always been going on. What I'm against is when people start saying you can't self-determine, you know, or you ought not to self-determine. Like specifically pinpointing groups and saying these groups morally shouldn't self-determine, being opposed to self-determination in those ways, as well as sort of the, you know, destruction of ancient things, destruction of ancient traditions, or etc. You know, I think that
hold on, someone said Dark Souls has turned an entire generation into neo-reactionaries. Video games are basically anime. Dark Souls is a Japanese game. I've played all the Dark Souls games and completed them. They're my favorite video game series of all time. In what conceivable way are you like linking Dark Souls to politics, let alone neo-reactionary thought? Like Berserk. I should really get around to watching that sometime, speaking of. It was a joke. It better have been, because that didn't make much sense at all.
Yeah.
Dark Souls is great. The entire game, from what I know, is like is a metaphor for depression, which it did make sense for me when I read through it. Berserk is edgy.
Berserk isn't that either. Yeah, it's pretty edgy. Berserk is quite, yeah. That's right. All right. So let's see.
I got a pretty funny message, and I'll just send it to you. Give me a second.
Go for it.
Katya, this is your picture here. I'll post it in the Google Hangout chat. Huh? Give me a second. I can't do it. Can I just send it to you on Discord?
Sure.
Yeah. Hold on. Oh damn. Sorry, my amplifier. I think either the tube bust or like the.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Not a problem. Anyway, yeah, I had an anti-natalist on my channel in like a debate, like a Bloodsport style debate thing once.
Wow, ridiculous. Okay.
I'll send that.
Can you speak now?
Yes. Hello.
Oh, there. Okay, good. My for little to no reason, my tube amplifiers stopped working, so I'm just plugging my headphones into my speaker right now.
Do you think that anti-natalism is like the logical conclusion of materialist atheism, in a way?
I think anti-natal. What did I miss, by the way? What were you saying whilst I wasn't here?
I was just talking shit about anti-natalism. Just saying it's. I mean, I wasn't, but I was about to start. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I think maybe we should have a complete separate podcast for anti-natalism. What do you think about that? Because it's a really big topic.
Anti-natalism? Yeah, I mean, I have a chat on anti-natalism. Go look up anti-natalism debate Babylonian Hebrew. Like, it'll be the first thing to come up. I have it with Simon Elliott and Newslu, and I recommend everyone go check that out. But yeah, I'd love to have an anti-natalism conversation with you and maybe some other people. Unfortunately, I need to get going. Unfortunately, because I think that there's someone who's actually at my apartment. But it's been a pleasure talking to you.
This has been great. Yeah, I really should like head off.
This is just the first of several chats. Like, I'm going to be just doing some more.
Yeah, of course. So
doing some more conversations. Someone asked what's our view on peasant rebellions. My personal view on peasant rebellions is I think that they are. Natural Order says, joking aside, there are themes in Dark Souls of the Kali Yuga and nihilism versus spiritualism in Dark Souls, so you could interpret it with a reactionary lens.
I think they're just going for a spirit. Yeah, the lore is kind of deep. I don't really know if they're. I don't really know if they've tried to do like a neo-reactionary thing. Definitely not. It's just just weird themes.
Yeah,
Thematics.
peasant
Like
rebellions.
fascism nowadays is all about that aesthetics.
Yeah. So now just to quickly address peasant rebellions.
Yeah.
I feel like peasant rebellions are the kind of things that might show a healthy impulse in a society, but they need to be controlled and directed by someone who actually knows what they're doing and has a game plan, because oftentimes they'll just end up being sort of like an impotent sort of like steam valve of steam.
Yeah, usually they become like ironically oppressive themselves after a certain point. Especially in cases like Soviet Russia, where you had so-called peasant revolt, when really it was just a revolution for the peasants, not really by them. But yeah,
I think that that's something interesting. It can. I think a peasant uprising can also become vindictive, as it were. Yeah. Well, it's been a pleasure having you, and I'll be having you on my channel again in the future. If anyone else wants to come on my channel, just shoot me a message on Discord, ED number 7043. And thank you very much for coming along. Looking forward to talking to you soon.
Thanks. Just a message to anyone joining my Discord. I'm not going to be talking to anyone on there. You can DM me, but I won't be making appearances on the Discord server itself for at least a month or so. The reasons for why are a bit strange. But yes, thanks for having me, on. It's been great to be on. Hope to do this again. Check out my YouTube channel, please. I hope you'll link to it, and see you.
Yeah, you can find that in the description section of the video. And thank you very much, everyone, for watching. It's been a pleasure. Take care, everyone. Have a nice evening.